Someone make it make sense.
Probably a couple.
Hello, my friends. Hopefully you guys can see me, hear me, and whatnot. Sorry I was delayed. It took me longer than I thought to create the thumbnail for the music video, and the stream last night went till like 3 a.m. or something crazy. So I just haven't even had that much time in between these two streams. So without further ado, it's great because we'll get caught up. We'll be able to watch it on speed. Let's take a look, see what's going on in court today. See what shenanigans ensue. Is there no sound yet in court? What is happening?
Versus Karen Reed. Can I have counsel identify themselves for the record?
Adam Lally for the Commonwealth. Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning, Mr. Lally.
Good morning, Your Honor. Laura McLaughlin for the Commonwealth.
Good morning, Ms. McLaughlin.
Good morning, Your Honor. Elizabeth Little.
Good morning, Ms. Little.
Good morning, Your Honor. David Unetti for Karen Reed.
Good morning, Ms. Giannetti. Good morning, jurors.
You are unmuted.
I just want to mention that Attorney Jackson is not here today.
Whoa.
Please don't consider that in any way. Certainly don't hold it against Ms. Reed for him not being here. Just don't consider it.
Whoa.
Deliberations. So I do have to ask you those 3 questions. Were you all able
Well, she's
to
doing
follow
that.
the instructions?
That's crazy. I hope he's okay. Wow. Holy shit. So I guess Unetti's going to be doing the rest of cross. Wow. Okay. That is wild. I wonder if we're going to learn what happened to him. Wow.
Taking over?
I will, Your Honor.
Okay.
Holy shit. Shout out to Black Witter and Super Planner Girl. Love you guys. Squirrel crew. You have the best squirrel crew in all the forest. And if there are squirrels on other planets, we still have the best squirrel crew.
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. Well, here we go. This will be interesting. Holy shit. I guess at least they had a long
So
weekend.
you provided to investigators
Almost
what
was
you
an
claim were the
urgent.
complete text exchanges between yourself and
Aha!
Karen Reed and yourself and John O'Keefe, correct?
I am happy he's asking this question because I've commented, as have others, that it is all very odd that it looks like there are pieces missing of the crazy ass text message puzzle. Looking at them from last time, it's like, yeah. So I'm glad he's asking this question.
What I provided was the complete. I let them know that it was a complete exchange between myself and the defendant, and I said that
You didn't say yes. Why can you not just say yes, dude? Why can you not just say yes?
I may have had other text strings at other times with
Oh,
Mr. O'Keefe.
My gosh. Why can't you just
I'm
say yes?
going to proceed to
That's
ask you a
troublesome.
series of questions which call for a yes or no answer. Can
Yeah,
we
there you
agree
go.
that you
That's
answered
good.
yes or no
Well
to
done.
those questions?
If I can answer yes or no to the best of my ability, I will.
All right, I'm going to keep the questioning very simple,
boy.
sir. Okay? You did not provide to investigators any other text messages between you and anyone else.
That's correct.
In September of 2022, you were served with a preservation order for your phone, were you not?
Yes.
After September of 2022, you never received anything in writing that canceled or lifted that preservation order, correct?
That's correct.
After September of 2022, you made the decision to dispose of your phone without consulting anybody about the decision to throw out your phone, correct?
Yes.
Before you threw the phone away, you did a factory reset of it. Did you not?
Ah.
No, I did not.
Well,
Oh.
you previously testified that you testified in another proceeding on June 1st, correct, of 2023?
Yes.
Prior to that June 1st testimony, you met with some people and gave a statement on May 5th of 2023. Did you not?
Is he?
I did meet.
Is he going to try to play dumb like Brian Albert Sr. about rehoming the phone and like as if you don't know? Like I don't know what happens to the data, and I don't know what happens with when I do the phone. Like when they both are in law enforcement and know full well.
With them, I don't know if that was the date.
Okay. It was prior to June, correct?
Yes.
All right. May 5th doesn't sound wildly inaccurate, does it?
No.
And when you met with those people on or about May 5th, we'll say, or whatever date it was prior to June 1st of 2023, you told them that you did a factory reset of your phone ending in 542. Did you not?
There you go.
I don't recall that. No, I don't recall making that
Of
statement.
course you
You
don't
don't recall
recall. Well,
what you said
bring in the documents then.
about the factory reset during that interview, we'll call it, in May of 2023, correct?
That's correct.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
That's right. Do it. As the song says, Jackson Unetti, it's time to shine. If you don't have a light, you can borrow a flashlight from your
highlighted line there, sir. If
Why don't you give him a second?
If you read that silently to yourself and look up at me when you're done.
Wow, he's on a mission. I might even want to put this on normal speed. It's only 1.25 and he's talking fast. I like his tie today. I don't remember what his tie looked like last time, but his outfit looks sharper, I feel like, today. And maybe his suit jacket is a different color as well. Like maybe it was navy before and today it's black. I don't know. It looks good. His outfit. Freshly done hairdo as well with that line down the, well, diagonal line down the center. Interesting. That's one of those haircuts that.
When you read that document, sir, does that refresh your memory about telling those people in May of 2023 that you did do a factory reset of your phone?
That's not accurate.
Oh my
I did
God.
not tell them that.
For
And I
real?
also didn't tell them that I saved texts with my father.
All right, so your testimony is that they got it wrong, correct?
Classic.
My testimony is I didn't make those statements.
Your testimony is that they got it wrong, yes or no?
Objection.
Sustained.
How?
Well, in any case, you took the SIM card out of your phone, correct?
No, what I testified to was that it's,
Did you take the SIM card out of your phone, yes or no?
I don't know.
Did you testify that that's what you do when you get rid of phones, sir?
What I said was that might have been the extent of it if I was to have done that.
Oh my God.
You either cut up the SIM card or
Y'all.
ripped it up, correct?
He's talking about himself in the hypothetical third person.
I believe what I testified to was
I'm not
I would
asking
have,
you what you testified to. I'm asking you today, did
Coming
you
out
either
spicy.
cut up the SIM card or rip it up?
cut it up or broke it.
And you will agree with me that cutting up or breaking the SIM card destroys the SIM card, does it not?
The card itself, yes.
That would have been the purpose in terms of cutting it up or ripping it up, to destroy it, correct?
Well, so nobody else could use the phone.
Well, that was my next question. But
In another phone.
But the purpose of cutting up or ripping up or the SIM card is to destroy the SIM card, is it not?
Yes,
And you wanted to make sure that somebody couldn't put that SIM card in their phone and potentially access your data, correct?
no, that wouldn't be the reason why.
Okay. Well, we already talked about the fact that you testified under oath on June 1st of 2023, correct?
Yes,
And you were under oath when you were testifying on June 1st of 2023, correct?
yes,
You swore to tell the truth.
yes,
You raised your right hand.
that's correct.
And June of 2023, June 1st of 2023 was about a year ago, correct?
Yes,
It was about a year.
What's going on Discord? Is this Squirrel Crew or is this on STS? Let me see. I haven't. See what's going on. Maybe this is on STS. Oh, is it because of your birthday, Black Winter? Trying to see. Oh, okay. I thought your birthday was that yesterday? Why did I think your birthday was a different day? But happy birthday again if it's actually today. But I remember the days are all blowing together, but I know was it who knows if it was yesterday or the day before. But we love you.
Closer
Duckwitter.
to you're throwing your phone away, correct?
Yes.
And in that testimony that you gave in June 1st of 2023, did you say the following, quote, I made sure that somebody couldn't put it in their phone?
Yes, I did say that.
In fact, by either cutting up or ripping up your SIM card, you also knew that that's...
I know, I've got another rap song in my head, y'all. This is a newer one, but what is it like? I tell all my hoes, rake it up. Something, let me see if I can find. Yeah, I tell all my hoes, rake it up, break it down, bag it up, bug it up, bug it up, bag it up, back it up. Do you guys remember that song? Anyway, that's all I can think about now. So maybe we'll have to do another song. Are we gonna do another song? Maybe.
SIM card couldn't be put
regarding the
back
SIM
in
cards
your phone either, correct?
Yeah, I believe that would be correct.
And you'll agree with me that you took that destroyed SIM card and put it in a trash bag, did you not?
I believe it went in a trash bag, yes.
Well, you used the passive voice. It went in a trash bag. Did it fly out of your hand unexpectedly into a trash bag, sir?
No, sir. It would have been disposed of with the phone.
No, I understand. But are you reluctant to say that you put it in a trash bag, sir?
Objection.
Can you answer that? Are you reluctant to say that?
No, Your Honor, I put it in a trash bag.
Wow.
Or with my trash.
And then you also took your phone, now without the SIM card, and you put that in the trash bag too, did you not?
Yes, sir.
Then you drove to a military base and you
Oh,
threw
right.
both the destroyed SIM card
Right.
and the phone into
Right.
a dumpster, did you not?
That's right. So we have heard wind of this going to the military base, and it makes sense that this was still something that, right, that feels like such a long time ago. This was still a loose end as far as what Jackson hadn't gotten to cover yet. But that's right, the whole military base thing. And remember, because on direct, he was like, oh, I was going to the duty-free store. Wow.
Well, I was cutting through the base, and I believe
Right.
how I
Did you
testified
drive to
was
the military base, sir?
I was cutting through a base, yes.
Did you drive to it?
Yes, sir.
And then you put both the destroyed SIM card and the phone itself, which were in a trash bag, into a dumpster on that military base, did you not?
I believe that's what I did, yes.
And as you were driving away, you knew that that destroyed SIM card and the phone would be gone forever, correct?
Yes, I threw it away.
And before you drove away, you did not transfer anything from your old phone to the new phone, correct?
That's correct.
You lost all of your photos on that phone, did you not?
Whatever photos I had on there, I did, yes.
You lost all your videos on that phone, did you not?
To the extent if I had any.
You lost all of your other text messages besides the ones that you had with Karen Reed and John O'Keefe, correct?
That's correct.
And you knew that you did have text messages on that old phone
Good morning,
with Kevin
Candace.
Albert.
He's a friend, most likely.
You also had text messages on your phone with Nicole Albert.
Most likely, yes.
And you had text messages on your phone with Brian Albert.
Yes.
It was important to you that no one see those text exchanges that you had with those three members of the Albert family.
Objection.
I'll let him have it.
How is that objectionable?
No, sir, that's not true.
You took no steps to preserve those text messages, did you?
That's correct.
You did not ask your friend Matt Kelch, the agent, to
Right.
help you extract
That whole
those text
thing.
messages, did
Oh,
you?
fuck.
That's correct.
And when you went to
I'm
that
trying to hear from
machine,
Matt Kelch.
you did not extract them yourself, did you?
He walked me through it. I did do the extraction.
You did not extract the 3 strands of text messages with Nicole Albert, Kevin Albert, and Brian Albert to preserve from that machine, did you not?
No, I did not extract those.
So the only place you knew they existed was on your old phone, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
the same phone that you put into a dumpster on a military base
Mhm.
with a SIM card removed from the phone and destroyed, correct?
Well, I did throw the SIM card and the
It's so funny. It's like the real point is like, is this what a normal person does? Like, is this what a normal person does if they are not like, yeah, this is just regular everyday life. You know, I just go to a military base and I like destroy the SIM card and I throw it all away and I, you know, get a new phone and like, yeah, that's just like everyday life. Like, I mean, it really is
the
astonishing.
phone on the
Like,
military base.
Right. And the SIM
Wow.
card was
Wow.
destroyed. You've already testified to that.
I said to the extent of if I did that, I would have done that.
And
The military base just adds a whole extra layer of like trying to use your privilege, just like he has been and he's done in every other way so far.
we're talking about the actual phone that would have had your text messages, again, with
Right.
Brian, Nicole, and Kelvin Albert, correct?
Yes, because the motion was denied.
Well, you've already testified, sir, earlier that you never received anything
Right.
in writing
Right.
that either canceled or lifted the initial preservation order, correct?
That is correct.
So then,
You knew when you were throwing that phone and the destroyed SIM card in the dumpster that from that day forward, no one would ever be able to access the content of what you and Brian Albert had discussed by text messages on your old phone, correct?
Anybody.
oh my God. Oh, wow. That's it.
Thank you,
Holy
Your
shit. Wow. Interesting. Wow. Okay. Huh. Brief.
Morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Let's see what happens now. I wonder if it would have
Let
been
me take you
longer if
back,
Jackson
just for a
said-
moment to January 29th, early in the morning, you're pulling away from the Albert home, correct?
Yes.
You had plow down in front of your Jeep Wrangler, is that correct?
Initially, it was still on the ground. Yes.
And about how long distance again was that on the ground before you?
You know, I wish Jack Yannetti had said when he finished with Higgins, I wish he had said this instead. Where is it? Aha.
We're done here.
Just saying.
Pull that up.
Maybe a foot.
And with relation to the
We're
curb,
back to the
specifically
snowplow.
in front of the area with the flagpole and fire hydrant, how close to the curb were you when you were pulling away from the Albert house?
I believe I looked both ways. There was no vehicles coming in either direction. I
Oh my
pulled out
God.
into traffic, and
Molly.
because that's a one-lane road, if there's no other vehicles, I'd be more to the center of that road.
Now, maybe a silly question, but with reference to the front of your Jeep.
Oh, and don't
Wrangler,
ask
doesn't have
it.
any, red plastic
Wow.
pieces or anything like that on front of it, correct?
At what time? At what point?
At any time.
No.
Fucking hell.
And that's the same Jeep Wrangler that you then drove to the Canton police station immediately after?
Directly from there. Yes.
And then you drove that same Jeep Wrangler back to your home in West Roxbury?
Yes.
And then you drove that same Jeep Wrangler back to Fairview Road?
Interesting. Notice that he keeps specifying Jeep Wrangler. I think he's maybe because he's worried that if he just leaves it actually open-ended and not leading, that Higgins will accidentally say Jeep Cherokee again. That would be interesting.
Later on that morning?
Yes.
And then you drove that same Jeep Wrangler from Fairview Road to the
Oh
Canton
my
police station
God.
again later that morning, correct?
Yes.
I want to know more about the Jeep Cherokee. Molly.
Now, the text communications between yourself and Ms. Reed, again, who initiated those?
The defendant did
And that was on January 12th, 2022, correct?
about 8:23 in the evening, I believe.
Now, with reference to that, what she claimed happened in Aruba, that was something that she mentioned to you via text, correct?
The incident itself, I believe, was through text, but I believe the actual location was when she had stopped by my place in West Roxbury.
So that's to my point. So, sir, with regard to the incident itself, she referenced
With
that via
regards.
text and in
With
person to you
reference
as well.
to.
Yes, that's correct.
And the kiss that she planted on you in the garage at Mr. O'Keefe's house, that was again something that she mentioned both in text and verbally in person. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Ah, yes. The kiss that she, quote, planted on him, despite the fact that he was like, what? You're hot and I was interested from the jump and I want the real deal. But yet, yeah, this kiss was forced upon him against his will, apparently.
Now, as
You
far
know.
as the ghosting that you were asked questions about last
The
Friday,
ghosting?
there were some text messages between you and the defendant on January 19th, correct?
What was the date? I'm sorry.
January 19th.
19th?
Yes.
Yes.
And do you recall if there were any text messages between you going either way, between yourself and the defendant between January 19th and January 23rd?
I think there were, not 100%.
Madam Mayor Pro?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna back it up because did he say roasting? Because like that would be appropriate to call it a roast.
Sorry?
January 19th.
It certainly was.
And verbally in person, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Now, as far as the ghosting that you
Ghosting. Okay, that makes more sense.
Friday.
Okay, let's go for it as he's gonna give him some shit to read.
And the defendant, Ms.
All right, here we go.
January 19th to January 23rd.
Read that shit, yo. I guess I'm practicing for a rap career now.
Yes. Looks like the 19th and the 23rd, both text messages.
But in between those dates, what I'm asking you about is January 20th, January 21st, January 22nd.
Squirrel
No
rap.
text messages on any of those dates. correct?
Beats by
I
squirrel.
don't see any.
And then as far as between January 23rd and January 28th.
It's like
January
Beats
28th
by
was
Dre,
when you,
but squirrely.
texted her while you're both within the waterfall, correct?
On the 28th, yes.
So between the 23rd and the 28th, so on January 24th, January 25th, January 26th, January 27th, you didn't send any text messages to her, you didn't receive any from her, correct?
I don't believe so, no.
And then beyond that one text message that you testified to on the 28th, the next text message
Ollie!
from the defendant.
Oh my
in regards
God.
to John being dead
Can't
on the
with him.
29th, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Now, you asked some questions about these text messages and whether or not you discussed them with various people. Did you discuss those text messages with anyone?
Not to my knowledge, no.
And why not, sir?
To be honest with you, I mean, on a personal level, I kind of keep things to myself. I was a little embarrassed.
Well, accurate.
Wasn't really proud of him.
Yeah.
Kind of maybe didn't show me in a good light with respects that I was John's friend.
Fucking,
So with
you
regard to
think?
that text on January.
You think? I mean, why are you though worried about your appearances rather than like the fact that you actually were not a good friend? Like that's the real thing.
28th, when
matters
we sent
here.
her in the waterfall. She didn't respond as she was in the waterfall with her boyfriend, Mr.
It's a
O'Keefe,
shame.
correct?
That's correct.
I mean, the only person we've seen so far that has shown actual like grief and loss, other than his family members, was Carrie Roberts in terms of losing John. I mean, everybody else.
Now, if the defendant did not have a boyfriend, wasn't dating Mr. O'Keefe, would you have
Oh
been
boy.
interested in pursuing anything further with the defendant?
I can't say. I don't know.
He was interested.
What
Just
many reservations would you have based on the conversations that you had?
that's speculation.
Just everything was so out of left field. I just found it hard to believe.
Oh, I see. Okay. So the strategy, the reason that he's okay. What's happening here is they're trying to Okay, now it makes sense. So I kept feeling confused as to why they kept harping on the whole thing of him being suspicious of her. Like, why are you reaching out to me? Why are you texting me? Blah, 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 blah. And like, and I'm like, why does this even matter? And like in my mind, I'm like, why is this like this? Okay, like if this is regular life, is it like that he's like the way people would normally think that is if they're like, wow, that person's way out of my league, which I think is stupid thinking anyway. Or if they're like, oh, that person's too good for me, or oh, that person's too old for me, or too young, right? Like then you could have someone maybe thinking like, wow, this is hard to believe. In this case, I don't know that any of that's really accurate. I mean, you know, they've all called each other hot and whatnot. I guess they're around the same age, you know, they have the same friend group, what have you. So it's like, it didn't make sense that he keeps saying this. And I don't know that he really necessarily, I guess what I'm saying is like, clearly there's a point here. And the point is to make it seem like she was just trying to use him to get back at John O'Keefe. And that like, in other words, the reason it was hard to believe is because it wasn't genuine. I think that's the whole point of harping on this.
With reference to going to the Canton police station after Fairview Road and moving the vehicles around.
Well, he clearly
this is
thought
closer to the Canton
there was
police station.
potential. So
Your
this
home
is
in
not
West Roxbury
usual.
or the home on Fairview Road?
like
The
him,
home on Fairview Road would be.
him saying it's
With the
not
impending
usual.
weather, why was it that you went
Isn't
to
really that
the Canton police station to move the vehicles around on that occasion?
Because as I stated before, if I didn't do it then, I would have had to come back in the morning. And I knew the weather was going to be getting worse. I knew that I had a long day. I had
You
been
have a
in
snowplow, sir.
New York. I had been out the night before in New York, and I just thought it was best to get him moved at that point.
Now, you were asked some questions on Friday about a phone call or something in a call log from about 2 o'clock or 2:22 in the morning of January 29th. Do you recall that?
I recall the questions, yes.
And you have an iPhone, or you had an iPhone, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, when you make a call,
Just
on
like
an
how they
iPhone,
had a dog, the Alberts.
as you sort of place that call, you hit the button, there's sort of a timer that comes up and it starts
Oh,
counting
the
off
Dutch
seconds
tiles.
as the call is being connected, correct?
I believe so.
I'll allow it. Oh, I'll allow it.
And so seconds are ticking off while the call is being connected, correct?
I believe so,
And
yes.
if a call is connected,
Oh,
and
it's not
starts
gonna help
ringing,
you.
unless someone picks up immediately, there are further seconds that are ticking off on an iPhone while that call is ringing.
This calls for
correct?
expert
believe-
testimony.
The objection sustained is to the phone.
Yeah, I would say it's objectionable. This calls for expert testimony because he clearly doesn't know. I don't think most people would know like exactly how many seconds go by when
You were
know
asked,
four
some
steps
questions
ringing.
about a call or a call back between yourself and Brian Albert around that time frame. Do you recall
Oh
that?
dear.
Yes.
And you were trying to explain sort of what your answers were in that prior proceeding in reference to, correct?
Yes.
What, if anything else, did you want to explain to the jury in regard to that?
In that form, I'll sustain it.
You were asked some specific points as far as your testimony in the prior proceeding, correct?
Yes.
What, if anything else, did you say in reference to that in the prior proceeding?
Sustained is to the form.
Mhm. Lolly.
Did you ever speak with Brian Albert at 2:22 in the morning on January 29th?
No, I did not.
Maybe you guys just whispered sweet nothings.
Do you recall making a call or receiving a call from Brian Albert around that time?
No, I do not.
Amazing how they all just there's all these butt dials and nobody has any recollection of any of it. It's just some
You were
crazy
asked,
active
some
butts.
questions on Friday
happening in
regarding
Canton.
key card access within the Canton Police Station, correct?
Yes.
Now, as far as that door that you utilized, you would testify on Friday that you would sort of park down towards the back and then come in through the Sallyport area. Is that correct?
So I believe I was referring to one of the two Sallyport doors.
And that was sort of your cut through in order to get to your office.
Yes.
Now, with reference to that particular area, as far as going in and out from the parking lot of the Sallyport, does the key card, you have to swipe the key card in order to
Which I
go
wonder
in
where
and the door?
DSN is.
So sometimes if you're close to the door, maybe having a conversation with somebody, it could activate the key card itself. But physically, if I'm going into the door, I would take it out and I would swipe it. I would hold it to the card reader. Some are more sensitive than others, is what I'm trying to say.
And similar to when you're going in, when you're going out, does that require sort of swiping or using the key card in order to go outside?
So there are some doors that you need to swipe out of, and I believe the booking room and the Sallyport itself are doors such as those.
May I approach?
Yes.
All right, let's go ahead while he's approaching. Approach. Okay. Excelente.
You recognize that, sir?
Yes.
Is that the same document that was essentially the same document that was placed before you on Friday?
Yes.
And that's a 167-page document encapsulating different key swipes within the Canton Police Station on January 29, 2022, correct?
Yes.
And from those 167 pages, at least on that first page, does there appear to be about 27 entries there?
See
Yes.
you
And
later,
so
super
from
planner
27
girl.
entries over a course of 167 pages, that'd be somewhere north of 4,500 entries within those 167 pages. Does that sound right?
Well, I went to public high school, but I'll take your word for it.
I'm going to surprise you that
That's
there are
funny.
18 entries.
Who was it last night on the stream? Somebody who said, might have been Candace, made a joke about how like the public school system in Canton has failed them. So that's interesting. Was he watching the stream?
Within those 4,500.
So not what would surprise him. Ask the question differently, Mr. Lawyer.
You know that there are 18 entries that contain your name within those records.
No, I'll allow that.
No, he
Are
actually.
you asking me if in the 167 pages, there's only 18 entries with me?
Yes.
I did not know that, no.
Does that surprise you as far as your, well, let me rephrase that.
Oh boy.
Now, with respect to your travels around Canton Police Station on that particular day, would you quarrel with 18 entries as far as where you went and what you did in Canton PD that day?
No, in and out, nope.
Can we talk about why the surveillance footage is missing? Please. Fucking hell.
Now, sir, with respect to your phone, you were provided notification in regard to a preservation order
In
in regard to your
regards
phone
to-
sometime in September of
with respect.
2022, correct?
I received a subpoena on September 30th, 2022.
And that was in regard to a hearing in which counsel for the defendant was seeking your physical phone as evidence, correct?
Yes.
And is it your understanding, or were you informed after that day, sometime in early October of 2022, that that motion had been denied?
So I believe it was October 21st of that year. I was made aware that that was denied on actually October 5th.
Are you aware of a 30-day period by which a defendant has to file some sort of notice of appeal of a motion?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
So I wonder if this is akin to like what happened with Brian Albert Sr., where he was trying to say like, you know, I got rid of my phone, or I upgraded my phone before the order came out that they were going to, you know, want to look at it or whatever. And like the timeline was real finicky, but it was like only a couple days before. And it looked like maybe he got tipped off about it, but he was trying to make it look like it was just a coincidence. But like, it wasn't like he got the subpoena and then got rid of the phone. I think he got rid of the phone first, or sorry, upgraded the phone. I wonder if this is like the same situation here. And to which that just begs the question, did the same person tip both of them off? I mean, that would make sense. And also, could it have been Calvin Albert? Because I mean, right? I mean, he's a detective at the Canton PD. So
I know typically there's appeal periods. In this particular sense, I wasn't familiar with the preservation order itself. What a preservation order was
preservation
with
order,
respects
sorry,
to,
yeah.
that was kind of all new to me. Usually in an investigation that I'm conducting, it's a search warrant. I take the phone. I don't ask
Yeah,
people to preserve it through a court order, if that makes sense.
no, that's
And so when was it that you
sorry,
disposed of your?
completely.
It was about 2 months after that,
And why was it that you disposed of the phone?
because it was beaten, it was broken up, and I had already had a new phone. And
Yeah.
only explanation is I threw it away. That's it.
Yeah.
Now, beyond sort of this case, what if anything else was going on with reference to your personal phone that led you to want to get rid of it?
So in July of 2022, I had a target of an investigation I was working
Oh, boy.
who alleged that he called me on my personal cell phone. And when I questioned him as to the fact how he obtained my personal telephone number, he told me that his girlfriend had obtained it off of open source internet, which I later confirmed that number was out there.
What, if any, concerns did that raise for you, sir?
Well, I had a lot of concerns. And so July of 22 is when I probably started thinking about, you know what, I got to get rid of the telephone number itself.
And a lot of the work that you were doing, at least at that time, was undercover work. Is that correct?
Before this case right here, yes.
Now, as far as
Oh,
SIM card that you're talking about,
so that's
do you have any
interesting.
specific-
Is he referencing the fact that he's no longer working in that capacity anymore? Which would make sense. I mean, I think that's reasonable. Fender says not to say hi to her, but hi, Fender. Also, I love your new picture on Discord looking fly. So this will be interesting to see what happens though on redirect.
memory of
Sorry,
that
recross.
SIM card?
rather.
No, and that's how I testified in that other hearing, that to the extent of what I would have done is I would have cut it up or broke it. And
Jury's got to be like the other hearing, right? Because it's like everyone just, they used to be more formal about it. Like this hearing where neither the prosecution nor the defense was present, and it happened in July of whatever year. And like, you know, and they're like really formal about trying to make sure people know that they're referring to the federal, you know, hearing. And like over time, it's just sort of morphed into that other hearing. The jury's got to, I mean, we hear about it a lot, right? The jury's got to be like, what the hell, right? Because it's like, it's sort of like what we were saying last night, the whole thing of like, when you're texting a group chat, like if you're Jen McCabe texting a group chat and you're like, she's telling them everything and everyone understands what you mean and no one's like, what's everything? So like, it's like, how do all these witnesses hear the attorney say the other hearing and they all know exactly what they're talking about? It's like, you know, I wonder if they've kind of figured that out yet.
the concern would be that to my understanding, that's not holding any photos. That's not holding videos. That's not holding my contacts. It's holding phone information itself.
As far as photos or videos, or what, if anything like that, did you even have?
I didn't have much in the sense that I'm divorced. I don't have kids. I didn't have the typical memories that somebody would have had on their phone that they wanted to preserve. They were more like the text messages with the defendant, where it would be a drink glass at a bar, food, something along those lines.
What?
I had more of a connection to my work phone and more of a value to my work phone.
You're saying you don't have any memories on you're like, you don't have like personal relationships with people? You don't have any memories, like pictures, video, like what?
Than I did my personal phone.
Now, as
Oh
far
my
as
God.
that military base down the Cape, how often? Let me ask you this: when you lived at the residence in Barnstable County, what would you do with your trash down there?
Well, if
What
I was
would you
going
do with
through
your trash?
and I had trash or some recycling,
Oh my
and I was either
God.
getting gas on the base or hitting the duty free, I would occasionally toss a bag of trash in one of the dumpsters there. And
What?
or if I forgot, I would throw it out when I got back to my other property. And at the time, at one point, I was living in Canton, and I had the
That's interesting for a number of reasons. One, go anywhere in the US, and I don't care where it is, if it's not on public property, like, you know, on the street or whatever, if there's any type of dumpster or trash can, it's going to say private property, no external trash. Like, do not put your trash in here. And it's going to have like a sign for that, right? Private property only or whatever. I would only imagine that on a military base, that's even more stringent. Like, hello, there's a reason for that, right? Because sometimes important evidence is discarded and I mean, whether it's a military base or not, right? But people will discard evidence in dumpsters and shit. And I would imagine that it's important for them to keep all the trash separated, right? Like isolated to whoever's on that military base. I can only imagine that there's like bringing external trash and taking it to the base. I can't wait to see what happens with this on recross. I mean, that seems really implausible. But here's what I will say is that the reason potentially is because as I've mentioned before, covering Koberger, for anyone who hasn't heard this, it was relevant, especially when it came to obtaining the DNA from his dad and stuff. Remember, and also another good example is with Lisk, the pizza crust DNA, because whenever you take your trash and you put it out on the curb, again, remember, like I said, public property, right? And I gave like that example, like sidewalks. So once you take trash and you put it out on the curb, it's now public property. And so if he just took his trash and put it out like a normal human, anyone could go through his trash, right? Whereas if it's like private property, like an apartment complex, right? That's why they have those dumpsters that say like, this is private property. Like it's to differentiate, make a distinction. Like this isn't for anyone to put their trash in. Also, this is private property, right? Whereas like, when he takes it to that military base, it's not public property. No one can just go rifling through it. But to the same extent, that's also why he shouldn't be putting it there, if that makes sense. And yes, I agree. It is crazy how they've all tried to distance themselves from her by calling her we were wondering where you were, but that makes sense, DSN. I was like, where's DSN? DSN says he just got back from throwing his SIM card and phone in a dumpster at a military base. Yeah, right? Just business as usual. Everything's nothing to see here. Fucking hell. Glad to see you, my friend, though.
the house there, and then I sold it, and then I had the in-law I was renting, so I had other options to throw things away.
Do you have trash
This is
pickup
the
at
weirdest
the
fucking shit about trash
No.
I've ever heard.
So if you were to throw away
Wait,
anything, any sort of
testimony.
trash, it would have to be either at the base or at one of your other homes.
Why
It
can't you
would be
just
somewhere else.
put it in the...
And
Oh, my
so
God.
with reference to the phone and the SIM card, if you
I hope
moved
they
it,
tear them apart on
did you
recross.
drive
That,
specifically to the base
I
and throw your
certainly
phone
would.
away, or were you throwing it away with other trash?
oh
It was
my
just
God.
with other trash.
Wow.
You were
That's...
shown some call logs or some toll records or something to that effect last Friday with respect to calls that you had made or received around January 29, 2022. Is that correct?
Yes.
And was that anything that you had specifically
That's really
observed that came to
sus.
the troopers or
He's now... Like, it's
No,
actually
something that
worse,
someone
right?
would
Because
make
now
it
he's
look
trying
good.
to say, in order, I guess, to make it seem more normal, he's like, yeah, I do this all the time. It's like, that's worse. Like, I don't know. It's lose-lose for him, honestly, because it's sus as fuck if he did it once. It's sus as fuck if he does it on the regular basis. You know what I mean?
even without your phone or without your SIM card, correct?
Right?
That's correct.
May I approach this with you, John?
Yes.
It's like, what the hell? It's this. The jury's not going to buy that. I mean, if there's one thing that everyone can relate to, it's how to throw out garbage, and no one's going to buy that shit. I would imagine. I would wager.
Well, sir, going back to January 29th, pulling away from the residence on Fairview Road, you didn't see anything on the side of the road, is that correct?
Absolutely not. No.
And what is it that you would have done had you seen anything or had you seen Mr. O'Keefe on the side of the road on January 29th?
I've spent my whole life
Speculation.
between being a firefighter, working in the profession that I work now, being a tactical medic. If I had saw John O'Keefe on the side of the road, I would have done something.
Okay, so I wonder if that's what it is. So because he did reference, and I pointed it out, that he's not working in that capacity anymore. He's a tactical medic. So I'm wondering if that's because of his potential involvement in this entire fucking thing.
To make a difference.
Where did you guys see each other? I love it though. I want to know. I want to go.
Guys, feel free to stand up and stretch.
I want to go. Okay, let's go forward while they do whatever it is. Where'd you guys see each other? That makes me so happy.
I believe it.
Prime motivation.
Okay, I guess what's happening is that him. Is Lolly done? What weirdness? Was this an STS? That's the only thing that sucks is like I've been streaming so much that I actually haven't had time to be in chats like as a chatter. Like I haven't had a chance to like, Okay, so you're watching chat. I wonder what's going on. Are they doing closing arguments? But we love you and I'll see you soon.
Sir, you testified that
Candace, do you remember where it
a
was?
prime motivator of you to get rid of your phone was a July 22nd call from a target of an investigation that you were working on.
I never said it was a prime motivator.
Was it a prime motivator?
Yeah, it is funny. I was just gonna say because like I haven't been to STS for so long. It's crazy. But it's like the time that normally I would be watching or in the chat, like it's like now, I'm doing it myself, which and it wasn't planned on being a substitute. It was just again out of like, wow, like I need to cover that. Like I feel like I need to talk about this. And also, of course, as y'all know, wanting to be able to have a productive conversation. Oh, possibly Runkle. Cool. Love Runkle. That's fun. Awesome. And yeah, but yes, I love all my SDS peeps and I love of course, I will say it's the best YouTube channel on the planet, in the universe, really, even Nightbot says so.
No, what I testified to was that the phone number was what I was concerned about primarily.
Right.
Didn't have anything to do with the phone.
Why did you?
You did not change your phone number on July 22nd.
July of 2022? Is that what you mean?
The date that you received a call, supposedly, from a target of an investigation you were working on was July 22nd of which year?
So I believe it was July 25th of 2022.
July
I was so
25th.
Concerned that I reported it to my supervisor.
Right, but you did not change your phone number after that for quite a while, correct?
I believe it was September.
Okay. So for those months, you kept the same phone number and kept the same phone,
Ah.
correct?
I did.
And September happened to be.
I was pointing out it couldn't have been
month
all
that
that
you
much of a
received the preservation order from this court, correct?
September of 22, yes.
Right. Now, with regard to
Oh no, don't use
the
lollyisms. No,
text exchanges that you had
it's like a
with
virus. I've been doing it too.
Karen Reed, you testified that you were
Because he says it so much.
embarrassed about them.
I wasn't proud of them.
I think your word
No,
was.
he said embarrassed.
Correct?
I can agree to that. That's fair.
Well,
You
you already
said-
testified.
Yeah,
to
you
that, right?
said that. Sorry.
I believe that
About
might have
5
been
minutes ago.
a word I used, yes.
Yes, you said that. I heard
And
that.
you also explained
Right.
that you would keep things like that to yourself, correct?
That could be something, yes.
However, you would also agree with me that while they were going on, you told your boss about that text exchange, correct?
Well, I told her about the kiss.
Do you deny telling your boss about the
Oh,
text
right.
exchange
That
you were
whole
doing
thing
with
was
Karen Reed?
crazy.
I don't know if I specifically
Right.
recall that. No.
But
Huh.
you don't deny it, sir, correct?
It's possible that I told her about that. I'm not going to deny it.
All right.
Here's the thing. I'm really excited because pretty soon in the recaps, we're going to be getting to his testimony. And it's going to be really great to go through it again. Because, like, for example, that whole thing about him talking to the boss and stuff, his testimony previously, it was such a long day and there's so much. I don't actually remember the details of like when that was. But it'll be interesting to see when that was in relation to everything else that was going on. But again, it's great because we'll have the opportunity to really go through all that and make sense of it or try to make sense of it, yeah.
And in any case, those text exchanges were preserved. You preserved those before disposing of your phone, correct?
Correct.
And with regard to the other text exchanges that you did not preserve with the Alberts, including Brian Albert, are you familiar with the term consciousness of guilt, Mr. Higgins?
Objection, Your Honor.
Woo!
The objection system.
Yeah, argumentative, I guess. I think it's fair, though. I guess it's sort of implying that he was involved, but you know, the evidence shows.
Just one more thing. With regard to the date that you changed phone numbers on your phone, you would agree with me that was September 29th of 2022?
When I actually changed the phone number?
That's what I just asked.
Yes, I also got a new phone. Yes.
Okay. September 29th of 2022,
Oh,
you
so way
changed
after.
your phone number and got a new phone. And then September 30th, the next day, you were served with the preservation order, correct?
I got the preservation order on the 30th. That's correct.
Right. Okay.
All right,
So
Mr.
that's like exactly what I was guessing. Remember just before when I was like, hey, I wonder if it's just like Brian Albert Sr., where it's like the day before, or with him, it might have been a couple of days before. I don't remember at this point, but it was like right before. And I was like, yeah, like as if he's been tipped off, which they can't say that. They could maybe that would be like for argument, like at closing. But I actually said that and I was like, I wonder like what a coincidence, right? Like I wonder if the same person took both of them off, maybe Kevin Albert, we'll see. But looks like that happened. So there you go. And they're done. Wow. Okay.
Higgins, you are all set.
I was thinking he would be on the stand like all day. And I wonder if it would have been different were Jackson here. And also I'm thinking maybe the reason Yannetti didn't even bother with the trash is because he's like, this is such stupid bullshit. The jury doesn't need any assistance here. Great. Yeah. Mr. Higgins, your texting skills make you a family annihilator. You know, or like what about like a butt annihilator, but like I guess I'm thinking of like the butt annihilating the phone. So
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you.
getting creative with it. All right, what's next? Okay.
All right,
well,
Mr. Lally, who's your next witness?
May we approach?
Sure.
they're gonna approach. Let's go forward, shall we? Okay, they're standing. Are they gonna go? Yep. Look who it is. It's the only fan. Oh, big break. Okay. What is happening? Big break. It says at the top, minor called as next witness. Are we still on a break? Wait, what is happening? Let's go live. Wait, what is happening? That is interesting, isn't it? Okay. I don't know what's going on. But let's do this, shall we? I have an idea, guys. Don't worry. Let's do this. I don't know what's going on, but while we're figuring out what's going on, I'm going to do something else. Check this out. So let me, okay, I'm going to put on a quick video while I pull something else up for you guys, okay? Don't you worry. I got you guys covered. All right, here we go. Do 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 339 Canton time. Jackson Yannetti, it's time to shine. There's snow, there's snow, there's snow, there's snow. To the window, to the wall, to the wall, to the bartender's last call. At the waterfall. Sleep, sleep, motherfucker. Sleep, sleep, goddamn. Sleep, sleep, motherfucker. Sleep, sleep, goddamn. They'll crunch and act and meet. Brian says we rest when they have too much drink in their minds. Everything's fine, but an act have already gathered about 50 damn times. To the window, to the wall, to the bartender's last call. At the waterfall. Sleep, sleep, motherfucker. Sleep, sleep, goddamn, goddamn. Sleep, sleep, motherfucker. Sleep, sleep, goddamn. Do, 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 do. Okay, so what I'm seeing here is okay, I have an idea. My idea is this, to keep the other one open. Like, Okay. Let me think. I need to share. Okay. What I'm going to do is share the whole screen. I'm thinking I'm going to keep, okay. My thought is to keep up the stream for Karen Reed. And in the meantime, switch over to Chad. So I'm going to keep it so that the sound is on. I'm thinking out loud so that we'll hear it when they come back. So let me just make it share. Hold on. My whole thing, my whole computer. Hold on. Okay. All right. This should do it. Okay. So here's this. This is live. I'm just confirming we've got the sound. So now I'm going to pull up this. Here we go. And all right. Should full screen. Right. There we go. Cool. We got it. And now let's go live. Let's do
Away from either
right.
undetermined or asphyxia homicide, correct? That's where you were at the end?
At the end, ultimately, our final discussion was around the deciding between undetermined or homicidal asphyxia.
Okay. And at that point, based on your review of all of the law enforcement reports and everything that the police officers have provided to you, you decided to lean towards homicide. Is that right?
But we made a decision that we would rule this a homicide, yes.
As part of your review of this case,
Okay. So
did you talk to Chad's daughter, Emma Murray?
No.
Did you talk to Chad's daughter, Leah?
No.
Did you talk to Chad's son, Garth?
No.
Did you talk to Chad's son?
from what I can glean, we've been doing Karen Reed, but from what I can glean, this is still the prosecution's or the state's rebuttal case. And of course, this is now cross. I'm going to see meanwhile too if I can figure out what the hell is going on in Canton. But yeah,
Mark.
you can have this.
No.
Hold
Did
on,
you
guys.
talk to Chad's son, Seth?
No.
Did you talk to Chad's mom or dad?
No.
Okay. So you got information from law enforcement, is that correct?
Yes.
But you didn't go back and look at anything provided to you from the family to give you some concept of what potentially the family history or medical was, correct?
Nothing was provided to me from the family.
Well, nothing was provided, but you didn't ask, right?
I did not.
Your Honor, argumentative.
Overruled.
You didn't ask, did you?
I did not.
And you specifically asked the police officers to provide you information about this case. Is that right?
Honor, asked and answered multiple times.
Sustained. After you provided this exhaustive list of police reports that they provided to you, at what specific date did you make your determination?
So this must
I
be
don't know specifically when it was. It was sometime in the days
forensic
immediately
pathologist?
preceding when we
Forensic
signed the
pathologist?
report, but I don't recall specifically which of those days.
Would it be fair to say that it was 14, 15 months later that you finally signed the report?
I believe that's about the right timeline. Yes, 13, 14 months.
So after 14 or 15 months of looking at this, you then made the decision that you came to the conclusion you did. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Now I want to go back to the autopsy.
wow, I
And
can't believe they're still
obviously I'm
discussing
not
this
a
nature
medical
of Tammy's
examiner.
death.
But when I
Oh,
read the
thank you,
autopsy,
Susan. Okay, gotcha.
I noted that you
Okay.
didn't make any note of
So-
the inflammation.
So they're also not doing the audio, which is interesting. Because a lot of times, I mean, I guess that makes sense, but that's like sometimes they'll have the, if it's a minor witness, they'll just not show the faces. So in other words, the whole thing is just, okay, I see. Thank you for that, DSN.
That was occurring in Tammy's lungs. Is there a reason why you didn't bring that up?
Because there's no significant inflammation in her lungs.
And you made the
Wow.
determination that it wasn't
Surprised that they're
significant,
still-
correct?
That's correct.
Discussing.
So we don't know what the
Nature.
level of the inflammation was at the time that Tammy Daybell died, right?
Objection, Your Honor. Counsel's testifying
they-
misstates prior
wow.
testimony.
The
Move to strike.
defense, like,
Sustained.
man,
Strike the question.
Do
like,
you,
I remember back before Karen Reed started, and I was watching Chad, and I was like in the chat at STS and stuff. I remember it was like back then, right? John Pryor was like, you know, like this was like, I feel like we're stuck in time because it's like this was the same discussion. Of course, it was a different witness, but like, and then every time I just, you know, saw updates about it all the way through, it's been weeks now. Same thing, same of like, yeah, like they brought in an expert, I guess, to try to refute that. Again, I haven't watched that because I was watching Karen Reed, and then like, I'm just shocked that we're still here with this. Either a niece or nephew or a 5'2" child ninja. Shout out to the 2 Gray boys, by the way. They trained their whole lives for that. That reminds me, I still need to make that meme with Jen McCabe and her green laser eyes.
know
Coach self.
the level of inflammation that was in Tammy Daybell's lung at the time of her death?
I know it was in her lungs at the time I looked at them from the time of autopsy, which would be
Okay.
expected to be reflective of that.
All right. And if there's inflammation in the lungs, that would be a reasonable explanation for why we had potential fluids in the lungs, would it not?
There was not sufficient inflammation in her lungs to account
There
for
you
the
go.
pulmonary edema that was
Hold your
present.
own, my dude.
And at no time when you testified the first time did you mention the fact that there was inflammation in Tammy Daybell's lungs, did you?
No. And there, do you want further response?
Well, you can if you'd like. Go ahead.
There's inflammation. Inflammatory cells are a normal constituent of lungs, even normal healthy lungs. It's normal for there to be inflammatory cells there in small numbers. They're basically to do the job of what inflammatory cells do, fight intruders and
Yes,
deal with
you're
infections.
trying to make much ado about nothing.
And there was no
Prior.
significant increase in the amount of inflammatory cells
Wait,
present.
you're
in the lung.
whining.
Okay, so if there's no, if it's part and parcel of a normal lung, then wouldn't the response in the autopsy say that it was a normal lung?
I would expect so, yes.
Yeah, and instead, in the autopsy, you talked about inflammation in the lung. So this wasn't part and parcel of just a little inflammation. There was inflammation in the lungs, wasn't there?
I would have to review them. I don't recall.
Well,
at this
didn't you
point.
just answer that already? Like asked and answered situation?
And Judge, could I have a moment, please?
Sure.
You may.
Thank you.
I mean, that was a good question by Pryor because, I mean, what he's saying, you know,
So I previously discussed with you that on the very first time you testified, you didn't mention anything about inflammation in the lungs. Is that right?
And not that I recall.
All right. And then today, when the prosecutor called you back after the defense has rested their case as a rebuttal witness,
Objection, Your Honor. That's a narrative. Move to strike.
Sustained.
yeah.
second time you're called back, questioned by the prosecutor. Again, no discussion about inflammation of the lungs,
Your
correct?
Honor, argumentative. Asked and answered. Move to strike.
Overruled.
Second time you're back, again, no discussion about inflammation in the lungs, correct?
Correct.
And then only after the defense attorney gets up here and questions it does the subject come up. Is that right?
Yes.
Nothing else.
Oh, wait, you know what he meant to say?
All right, Ms. Blake, redirect.
Hold on, he meant to say this. Hold on.
We're done. We're done here.
Love it. So, okay. I wonder what, let me see.
Dr. Christensen, have you testified before?
Yes.
And are you familiar with court proceedings that the state brings people back as rebuttal witnesses?
Yes.
So have you testified in that capacity before?
A couple of times. Yes.
Counsel just went over inflammation in the lungs pretty in depth. Again, was there any indication that inflammation of Tammy's lungs caused her death?
No.
I think you said there was no significant or
I'm looking here. It says both the niece and nephew are expected to testify. So I'm trying to see, are they, I wonder if they're expected to go all day. That's what she said. And also, it looks like they all agreed to not share audio or video. Obviously, we know the video, but yeah. So I'm wondering, like, is that it? Is it just going to be this the rest of the day? Let me see if I can find out anything else. Wow, interesting. That would be kind of a bummer though, because like it's the only day in court, right? So, wow. I guess that's it, right? Like, holy shit. It looks like that's it, guys. Wow. Okay. Huh. Interesting. Okay. Wow. Well, this was an interesting morning. Not at all what I anticipated. All right. Let me do this. Okay. Um, All right. Let's do this. Hold on. Okay. Let me pull up. Wow. Okay. So, sometimes things just don't go as planned. So, y'all, I don't know. Interesting. Um, Let me say this. If I will keep an eye on it. If something happens and they finish with the two children, I would hope, okay, I will say this. I would hope that they're not going to keep them on the stand, for any longer than necessary. And Lolly's not going to like lollygag through that because that's brutal. Even if it's not televised for them, it's going to be brutal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep an eye out because Tuesdays are usually full days for the court, I believe. I'll see if I can do some research. And essentially what I'm saying is this. If the two children are finished and somebody else takes a stand, I will try to pop back on and we'll stream it. Because I was expecting Higgins to be there all day. In the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to work on getting the next recap together. And then maybe we will be able, Fender, you're just in time for us ending the stream. I'm happy to see you back, but essentially what happened was, right, what's happening? Okay, well, here's a brief little recap of what happened. So Alan Jackson, for some reason, wasn't in court. I don't know. Maybe there was an emergency. He was not there. So Yannetti took over for Cross, and there was a brief finishing up of Cross. And so we streamed all of it, but it was brief. So there's a brief finishing up of Cross, a brief redirect, and a brief recross, not very long at all. And then they called the next witness, and they turned off the cameras and the audio. And so what's happening is the niece and the nephew of John O'Keefe, who he became the caregiver for before he died, because they had lost both their parents, they are testifying right now. And both parties had agreed to not have it broadcasted with video or audio. And today, as y'all know, the only day in court this week. So what I'm wondering is if these kids are going to be going the rest of the day, or if they will keep them, yes, the nibblings, yeah, or if they'll keep it brief because it's brutal for the kids to be on the stand. And so it remains to be seen what will be happening. So what I'm going to be doing, and just in the meantime, while we were trying to figure it out, I was streaming some of Chad Daybell here. But what I'm going to do is keep an eye on it and see what's happening. If something comes out that someone else is going to be taking the stand, I will start another stream. Like I'm on this stream, and I'll do another stream if somebody else takes a stand where they're going to be broadcasting it. And in the meantime, I'm going to be working on the next recap video, because then I might be able to have it ready for tonight, and we can do a recap tonight, and where we would be going over Carrie Roberts' testimony and perhaps like a brief overview of the sisters Sullivan, and maybe potentially we could even start going through some Brian Higgins's testimony from last week. So, Fender, you're saying apparently, huh? Let me see if I can find out anything else about that. This is unusual, obviously. All I'm seeing online is that he was unable to be there, which is what they said in court. And that's it. Like, what the hell? I mean, I wonder if it's like a medical emergency or something like that. It's not like he's not. So I wonder, Fender, what you're referring to sounds kind of like changing counsel, like removing, like that's, it sounds like he's just missing the day and maybe due to some sort of emergency. So I don't know that that would apply if there's, oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Runkle's chat. So you're saying, I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah. I mean, in other words, I wonder if Runkle addressed that, but like, I don't know that it's an infringement upon a defendant's rights if there's like, say, a medical emergency, right? Or a death in the family. Let me see what I can find real quick. If I try like for medical, let's see. I'm pulling it up on a Wexlaw. Effective counsel. Trying to see. Let me try something else. If I put it in quotes. It looks like I'm seeing here that potentially the defendant, okay, it looks like potentially the defendant could try to, the defendant who's left without an attorney, if the attorney, like, let's say it's in a medical emergency, it looks like they potentially could try to claim ineffective assistance of counsel. But I imagine that's something you would only do if maybe you didn't want the attorney in the first place. Like maybe if it was court appointed, I don't know. Like it seems like that would be the choice of the. Okay, let's see. But I've seen this before in other trials, but I'm thinking, I remember like in Kowalski, but that was civil. Or no, wait, hold on. That was an expert witness, right? No. I know there's been trials I've watched where there's been an attorney that was ill. And also I remember like, was it in Lori Vallow? One of the prosecutors had a death in the family or something and ended up missing some, but that's different because it's a prosecutor. Yeah, I cannot possibly imagine that if there was anything else happening in another court, I would think that would be continued, right? Because he's definitely not in two trials at the same time. And trial, if you're mid-trial, that's going to take precedence over like a hearing. You know, like whenever we see them at these hearings, when they're making they're doing the court calendar and they're scheduling the next hearing or whatever, they're scheduling around trial dates. So there's no way he would have an obligation in another court. There's just no way because he's here. Well, having said that, they do have their days off and they do have their half days. So those would be times he could potentially be doing something else, right? But I can't imagine that while he's scheduled to be here in trial, this would take precedence over anything else for that. I mean, it looks like, yeah, okay, interesting. Yeah, it looks like if there's a medical emergency, for example, it is what it is because it's nothing that could have done to prevent it. It's not. Okay, let me read this. Here's some case law. Hold on, guys. Oh, yeah, this looks like another situation where someone was a criminal defendant and their attorney was court appointed and had a medical emergency. This might be the same case I was looking at before. And then they tried to claim ineffective assistance of counsel, and then it also tried to actually sue the state, as in like the prosecution. I guess, because it was a court appointed, but they lost on all this, it looks like. I'm reading the case law here. Wow, and it's actually the Commonwealth. Is this also Massachusetts, this case law? That'd be interesting. Oh, it's Virginia. This case law is from Virginia, but also they call it the Commonwealth. Interesting. Where's the... Hold on. I'm trying to find the holding. Well, yeah, I don't know. This is interesting though. I'm curious. Let me see if there's anything else coming out since I last searched. This is one of those things that maybe like people on social media would have, like, Twitter, but like, right. That's right. Greg Anderson's right. Thank you. Yeah. Right. And I agree. That's exactly what I'm saying is like, there's no way in hell she's going to file for him. There's just no way. Yeah. I mean, they both, exactly, like, going to get roasted by both. I don't think she would, there's a problem. Right. I don't think so either. Like, in other words, in order for him to not be here, there is an emergency, whether it's a death in the family or medical. He wouldn't be allowed to not be, like, there has to be an emergency. But, and also, like I was saying, there's no way it was a scheduling issue, because if there was a scheduling issue, whatever, like in another court, that would yield to this. Because again, this is, not only trial, but he's actually supposed to be doing the cross-examination. So there's just no way. It's like everything else would work around this schedule. Oh, a family commitment. Okay. I remember how last week when they were talking about trying to finish the cross all in one day, and it seemed like it was like wasn't all that surprising because Judge Bev is like always trying to hurry things along. But I wonder if that's actually what that was about, because I wonder if it was like a prior commitment that they were aware of, and that's why they were talking about trying to finish it in one day. That would make sense. That would make sense. That would make sense. In which case, that actually is in a way better, because it means that this was planned, and him and Yannetti would have prepared for this. And I'm sure it was like the same set of questions and stuff too. Okay. Well done finding that, Fender. Okay, cool. So nothing to worry about there. That's good news. So the next question is, do we know anything more about what's going on with the niece and nephew? And if they are still going? Let me see real quick if they're back. Let's just see. No, they still got kids on the stand, it looks like. Okay. So there we go on that. Yeah, I'm just wondering if like anybody happens to know, like in court, like, I guess if they take a break, someone will come out and probably say, like, here's what's going on in court, like in terms of where we're at. Like, are they wrapping it up, or, what's the plan here? Because I'm wondering, again, how long. And if there's still plans for anybody else. today. Looks like the last update was 10:15. The chief court officer said you can't tweet. Oh, okay. That explains why there's no information. Okay. They can't tweet or take notes on a computer. Like, wow. Okay. They said they will post when the testimony's done. So that's what we need to keep an eye out for. So they cannot tweet. So it's not just the cameras and the audio. They can't tweet or take notes or anything. Okay. While they're testifying, but after they're done, they can post. Okay. That is good to know. I found a local Boston thing that is got somebody sitting there in court who is going to post once they're done. Okay. Okay. This fellow or woman, whoever it is, says they'll post after the testimony is done. So my guess is that they have their devices that they can access once they're not in the courtroom, right? Like they can go out to wherever it is and send their tweets and do their things. They're not going to cross the kids, I would imagine. That's a good question. Like this is the same thing I'm trying to figure out. I'm like, I want to know what's going on. The thing is that, like I was saying, with kids, it's generally a good idea. Like, okay, we're dealing with Lolly here, right? Because it's really going to be up to him. Because again, I can't imagine there's going to be any type of cross. So Lolly, if he's smart, this says here, I guess maybe they can take handwritten notes. It says here that the chief court officer told all media they cannot tweet or take notes on a computer while minor. So maybe they can take handwritten notes. I think that's the difference. I would imagine the concern is that if they're taking notes on a computer, they could be tweeting or whatever, sending it out. So I think that's the difference. But yeah, so if Lolly is smart, right? The thing is that these kids, it's going to be brutal for them. Brutal. And so we've seen this before with victims that are having to testify. Like, again, you could compare it to plenty of trials, but Murdoch, for example, like when, with certain family members, especially younger, I guess, like some of Paul's friends, but there's other trials too, like essentially it would be smart of Lolly to not keep them on the stand, right? Because the jury's going to feel for these kids, and the jury, this testimony is not really going to be going to. Okay, I will say this. The nephew was staying the night at a friend's house that night. The only thing I could see being a little bit more longer in terms of the testimony on direct would be from the niece, who's I think the older of the two. And she was actually home that night. And as we know, John didn't come home. However, the niece was the one who called Jen McCabe and could also testify to how Karen was and what happened. And in a way, that could actually benefit the defense, because remember, part of the goal of the defense is if they're, wanting to try to make it so that the defendant doesn't have to take the stand, right? The whole strategy is getting testimony in through other witnesses. So I could actually see this being helpful to where I could see maybe a little bit of cross happening with the niece, but not to try to not to try to impeach her or whatever, but I could see maybe asking for some more detail about certain points if they're brought up on direct. I could see that being fair. And I could see that being a way to paint a picture of what happened if they think that there's testimony from the niece that potentially could paint Karen in a light that's favorable to them, or her actions in because there's a reason we don't have so little information about what happened like after Karen came home, right? Up until until Jen McCabe gets the phone calls. And it's because the only people who can testify to that are Karen or the niece, right? Like they have to be there. So this actually could be really important testimony. I'm just thinking out loud here as I'm considering all this, that like the nephew not being there, he's probably going to be shorter on the stand, and he's also younger. So it'll be interesting. She's in love. Right. So she's old enough, again, that's different than someone who's like, in elementary school or, so I could see that being okay to where she would probably have a good memory and maybe be a little bit more able to kind of go through some of that stuff. But again, the nephew, I believe, is 2 years younger, and he also wasn't there. So yeah, so that's what I was saying. And you might have said this, Fender, before I started talking about it. But the reason for the niece, I think, is because the niece was there when Karen, like that whole night. Like she's the only one who was at that house. Like from what I can tell, essentially what happened was, right, when they went out, part of the reason it was such a big deal is because John would have never left the kids alone. And the nephew, from what we've heard, was at a friend's house. So that niece would have been home alone. And so at some point, she would have woken up to Karen, like from what we've heard, right? I guess in other words, this is what Karen told Jen. So take that for what you will. But from what we've heard, Karen woke the niece up and was like, did you see John or something like that? Right. And then they went from there and they proceeded to do who knows what. And then at some point they called Jen. So in other words, I could see the niece's testimony is probably pretty important in terms of what happened because we don't have any other way to fill in those gaps unless Karen testifies. So, I mean, and I agree. I totally agree. It's going to be Lolly's job, unfortunately, to suss out what the situation is here. And if it's worth keeping her on the stand. And we also just have no idea. I mean, sometimes you've got kids who are really resilient and I don't know, it really could go either way, but I just worry that Lolly is not the person for the, I'm certain that Lolly is not the person for the job to like read the room or read the witness and act accordingly. Right. Unlike we've seen with the defense attorneys, like for example, when they've made those choices to not cross, Carrie, you know, I think there was somebody else that they also didn't cross. I'm trying to remember, but those were that. I know, right? And freaking Lolly's got us all, got me anyway, saying, you know, in reference to or regards to, it's just stupid. And I'm with you on that as well, Fender, which is why, again, this might be important testimony from her. And again, it could be a way to get testimony in that otherwise would have to come from Karen, and that could keep her from having to take the stand. Have you heard any updates, DSN, since, you know, as far as what's going on over there? Let me refresh this page and see if, I mean, that would be nice, but you know what? We've not heard a peep from anybody except for Lolly. So I would be surprised at this point. Like at this point, it just seems like he's just taking every witness, you know? We're on wit. These kids would be witnesses 44 and 45 because Higgins was 43. So, what are you saying, Fender? Unetti would be a better direct? You mean like in their case in chief? Okay, let me see if there's anything else happening. I'm not seeing anything else on this website. Thanks guys for bearing with me though. I mean, I don't want to jump off if like they end up wrapping it up and then. Oh, the two people who didn't get crossed. Oh, thank you for reminding me. Yes, the brother. No, I'm thinking that you're thinking of the beginning of trial. I don't even recall back to that. It feels like such a long time ago. I'm talking about Carrie Roberts. And I feel like the same day, and we haven't done her in the recap yet. We're going to do her tonight. That sounds weird. We're going to cover that testimony tonight. I feel like there was after her, maybe it was one of the Sullivan sisters. Maybe it was just that it was really brief, but like they did not cross Carrie at all. So they started at 10:15. So that would mean the kids now, one or both, whoever it is, has been on the stand almost for 2 hours. Right. I see what you're saying for cross, if they cross. I see what you're saying. Oh, no, you're saying if, like, if for some reason they could be doing, I think I see what you're saying. Yeah. No, they did not cross Carrie Roberts. Not a single question. And I think, again, I think it was one of the Sullivan sisters. They just asked like one question or something. Because I remember thinking that day there were two crosses that one didn't happen and one was extremely brief. But we'll be covering that tonight. So we'll see. And then right after that, they jumped into Higgins. So, right. Oh my God, what is happening? Oh my God, what is happening? You guys, we did it. We did it. No, I messed up the thing and I forgot. And can you guys hear it? Oh my God. Hold on. Hang on, hang on, hang on. Holy shit. Wow. I didn't even realize I still had that up. Oh my God, y'all, we got it. Hold on. We can be the first. We're here. We're live. Hold the phone. Hold the phone. Hold on. Can you guys hear it coming from my computer? Hold on. Holy shit. This is awesome. Check it out.
I obtained a bachelor's of
Y'all?
science.
Oh my God. So here's what happened. I'll pause it and then we can, so we're live. Here's what happened. I forgot I didn't close out of this window on my second monitor. Remember when I was like, hang on guys, let me leave this up so that way we can hear it when they come back to court? Well, my plan worked, but I forgot that I had left it up. So I stopped sharing my screen, but I still had the monitor on with this open and I completely forgot about it. And then I was like, where is this sound coming from? But here's what's so cool is like, I'm literally reading this local media outlet out of Boston, and they didn't have any update on it yet. And then, so I wonder, wow, yeah. So I'm glad I stayed live. Holy shit. I'm like, can you guys see it? Like, you should see a fellow. I am shocked. The white screen was because I didn't have the thing shared. I'm shocked. This is insane. Wow. Okay. So the Sullivan sisters, we will talk about them tonight, Fender. They're really not all that important, to be honest. No offense to them, but like, yeah. So yeah. Okay. So we're going to watch it live. Cool.
In chemistry.
We win. We did it. We did it.
Following your graduation,
Round of applause.
There, where did you go to school after that?
Yeah.
So after
Good idea, Fender. Yeah, especially since we're almost caught up. Let's get his name. Wow, cool.
doesn't
Cool crew.
And where is it that you work now?
Okay, let's hear because now we're gonna hear it from, because we have no idea who it is. Yeah. Yay, coolio. We did it, guys. It's not me, it's us. Fender, if you hadn't popped in and been asking me questions, I was gonna end the stream. But because you popped in, started asking me questions, and we started talking about it, that's the only reason this is happening right now. I mean, eventually I would have figured it out and started another stream, but it wouldn't have been contemporaneous like this. So, okay, I'm just trying to get to where we hear him start his testimony without missing anything. Okay, hold on. Bear with me, folks. Why did I
doesn't
see? It's like I can't get it to buffer right in between, so we'll just have to. Okay. So, yeah, you'll be there in the morning. Where in your morning time? Where will you be, Fender? But yeah, on the recap tonight, so in like, I don't know, 8 hours-ish from now, maybe, we will be doing Carrie Roberts' testimony and the Sullivan sisters Sullivan, and maybe.
And where is it that you work now?
Oh,
my current employer is South Shore Health.
okay.
How long have you been working for South Shore Health?
I started.
I'm pausing it to say that's because I guess the freaking everybody was so surprised that they didn't get cameras and audio back in time to hear the very beginning of his taking the stand. So as we heard it, the reason it seemed weird and abrupt is because it was weird and abrupt. So
there
no
in October of this
no
past
such
year,
thing. Ask away.
2023.
No, the questions are
Where
great.
did you work
That's
prior to that?
that's why I'm here.
Before that, I had been at full-time at Good Samaritan Hospital in Brockton.
And how long was it that you worked at Good Samaritan?
Let's see. I started at Good Samaritan.
So this is probably my guess. Could this be what I think it is? Could this be the medical examiner? I doubt it's an expert because we need to hear from the person who did the autopsy by request of the Commonwealth first before we get an expert. So, I mean, typically, right? Again, remember when we talked about in Murdoch, coroner versus forensic pathologist versus medical examiner? This is all going to be really relevant. We'll hear in a second more about his background, and then we'll probably be able to determine what the deal is. But it depends on the jurisdiction as to what they have. So this guy could be an outside third party, kind of like Dr. Reamer was in Murdoch, or he could be someone who works for the government. We'll see what happens.
in
Yeah, it is where it starts. That's
2010.
Now,
Gotcha,
sir,
Fender.
If I could, I'd like to just
Cool.
talk a little bit about your educational background.
you'll
Where
be
did you go to school as far as your undergrad was concerned?
I went to undergraduate at the College of William and Mary in Williamsburg,
Okay.
Virginia.
And what, if any, degrees did you graduate from there?
I obtained a bachelor's of science in chemistry.
And following your graduation from there, where did you go to school after that?
So after that, I attended University of Virginia for medical school. Is that what you asked me? I'm sorry.
And following your graduation from medical school, where did you go after that?
Then I did a emergency medicine residency in Philadelphia at University of Pennsylvania.
And what is a residency, sir?
So residency is several years of training that's where doctors will specialize. For me in emergency medicine, some people choose to be surgeons, pediatricians. That's been more of the.
I will say we've heard from a lot of doctors and trials. It does not sound like this fellow has testified a whole lot. Yeah, you could be right, Fender. Maybe he's the blood alcohol level. That could be it. Because again, it is weird. It's like we are supposed to hear from the people who did the autopsy and whatnot, but like usually you kind of get that in early, so it'll be interesting. But he definitely doesn't sound like he's done this a lot.
Specialization, if you will, happens in medicine, medical training.
And how long was your residency?
Interesting.
It was 4 years.
And following your residency, where did you go from there?
So I, in 2008, finished residency. I worked for 2 years in Manassas, Virginia at Prince William Hospital for 2 years.
And are you board certified?
I am by American Board of Emergency Medicine, yes.
And what is it that you're board certified?
Specifically emergency medicine.
And when you use that term as far as board certification is concerned, what goes into that? What does that entail?
So when I obtained board certification, it was a two-step process where there was a written exam administered at one of the testing centers. And after you pass that, then there's an in-person oral exam, I guess is what they're called.
Wow. This is
And it's where you've given like didactic or individual cases. Assuming you pass that, then you're board certified.
And your board certification
Yes, Ben.
currently?
Yes.
Right. That's what we really need to hear
With
about.
reference to the time that you worked at Good Samaritan, as far as the emergency.
No, they
department is
don't.
concerned, can you
Fender,
describe
they
to the
don't.
jury sort of,
Yeah, this
what
is
is the
why
emergency
this trial, even from the start, like the first thing you show, the first thing they do in like every trial, right? Why are we here? They prove that, like, of all this trial being unique in every way, but even just from the very first thing that this is correct. The jury does not have evidence that he's even declared and confirmed passed away, any of that. Yep.
a Good Samaritan look like as far as staff, bedding, sort of layout, like describe that to the jury?
Sure. So at the time and currently, there's 36 treatment rooms in the main ER. A lot of hallway stretchers as well. There's also an express care kind of area, but for the purposes of this conversation, 36 beds in the main ER. Staffing wise, there'd be anywhere between 4 to 5 and 12 nurses. And for the purposes of this discussion, it would have been 2 docs on.
Wow.
And probably one either nurse practitioner or physician assistant in the
Wow.
morning.
Was he not planning
As
on
far as
testifying?
the
Or?
morning I'm going to turn your attention to is the morning of
Okay.
January 29th, 2022. Were you working at Good Samaritan on that day?
If that's the morning of this incident, then yes.
Incident.
And,
And that's the other thing. I've pointed this
particular
out
shift or
before.
what kind
I've pointed this out before, but everybody calls it an incident. Everybody, prosecution, defense, they don't call it, they don't say, it's just so weird. If I were the jury, it would be easy to forget and get confused as to like, is this a murder case? Because in every other trial, it's like they'd say the death or somebody passed or the homicide. Everybody calls it the incident. So it just adds to the weirdness that they really haven't even given the jury information that, like, apart from opening statements where Lolly mentioned the word murder one time, and that was it.
of hours would you be working around that time at Good Samaritan?
I'm pretty sure I started my shift at 6 a.m. that day. There was a 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. It was either 2 or 3 to, excuse me. It was either 6 to 2 or 6 to 3 p.m., but the shift would have started at 6 a.m. as I recall.
And on that date at Good Samaritan, do you recall becoming involved with a treatment of a patient by the name of John O'Keefe?
All right.
Yes.
I am very interested to
Your name
hear
first,
this.
Yes.
This is at least something. Now, obviously, this is just the first we've gotten. What? Okay. That was them. That was not me. That was the court feed, I think.
I'm
Yeah,
showing you a document. If you could just take a look at that and look up anything.
that's the court feed. So this is the closest we've gotten to anything. I'm
You want me
sorry.
to look through each page or just acknowledge that
Just as far as, do you recognize what that
Let me put it on the
recognize that?
feed and see if that makes a difference.
is a transcription or a copy of
What the hell is going on?
dictated, and on the front page is also a called like a code sheet, which
When we go live, like
in his case,
this is not me. This
without
is-
electrical activity as well of the heart.
okay, maybe they fixed it. This is not me.
And
That was not
are
me.
you
That's
familiar with another
cameras.
term called perfusion?
Yes.
And can you explain how what perfusion is and how that relates to the condition of
Okay.
cardiac arrest?
Sure.
So
So
there's been a lot. Today's a weird day. So essentially, it looks like the court feed was having some issues. So I jumped ahead a little bit. Because it was cutting. Let me go back a little bit. Maybe they sorted it out earlier because we were only just barely behind the live feed to see if we can get to the whole bit about the approaching. But that was kind of crazy. But that was not me.
okay, thanks. So it looks like based on the code sheet,
Okay.
first
I
line,
guess Fender, my thought would be that they were approaching because they always have to ask to approach whenever they're handing anybody documents to look at. It's very, very formal about that. So they show it to everybody before it's admitted into evidence. And then again, the other thing is they had that issue with the way they were marking things. So that there's like a longer approach with every witness when they're giving them something that they're going to, admit into evidence. It takes a little bit longer because they have to mark it and all that into evidence. So yeah,
I'm starting at 0647.
it's not me.
So
It's not me.
I'll say 6:47 a.m.
Beautiful sunny day here. It was the
And
court
as
feed.
far as his presentation, Mr.
It was-
O'Keefe's presentation,
unless it
going
was-
into the emergency.
That was either the court feed or this particular
How would you
NBC
describe his
Boston, but it
presentation
wasn't
upon his arrival there?
beyond my control.
So
But so
he would have been, he was unresponsive and intubated, as in with a breathing tube into his airway via his mouth.
And as he came into the emergency department, what, if anything, was fixed to him in regard to CPR or other resuscitative efforts?
So
it's funny. I feel like
he
I
would
feel
have
like
had,
in other trials they would give him a more like medically, like what's the right word? Like the actual like medical description of what being intubated is. However, while Lolly isn't doing that because Lolly, I guess, I will say it is helpful that due to COVID, I think most people, if not everybody on the jury, would be somewhat familiar with what being intubated is. Whereas I know prior to COVID, I would have never heard that word. Right, correct, Fender. It's not a sidebar. No, they actually don't really do a lot of sidebars. If they do it, they go to the fan. So whenever they approach like that, I know in most trials we would take that as a sidebar, but here they're just marking evidence and like looking at the documents and shit. If it's going to take more than like 2 minutes, typically they do cut the cameras even. So I think part of that's because the courtroom is so small, so they actually can't really discuss things without everything being overheard. And when it's supposed to be not on the record, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's the impression I'm getting.
had CPR in progress. And also someone would have been ventilating his lungs via the endotracheal tube.
Wait, what?
Now, there's nothing within that record as far as a cardiac arrest. Is that correct?
You can be ventilated and intubated at the same time? I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I don't feel like that.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't understand what you're asking me.
Fucking hell.
Well, let me just ask you,
What
are
am
you
I
familiar with the term cardiac arrest?
Yes.
What a
Can
mess.
you describe to the jury, based on your training and experience, what your understanding of that term is?
Sure. So, as in he arrived with in
reading.
cardiac
You
arrest,
can't read
which
from. Oh my God.
by definition means that his heart was not autonomously or independently pumping blood, or in his case, without electrical activity as well of the heart.
Oh my
And
God.
Are you familiar with another term?
Oh my
called
God.
Perfusion.
Yes.
And can you explain what perfusion is and how that relates to the condition of cardiac arrest?
Sure. So, for example, you and I right now, because our heart is autonomously, pumping blood,
Wow.
the heart is the pump and responsible for pushing blood throughout your body, therefore perfusing your body. In a scenario like this, where a patient is in cardiac arrest or asystole, or as in not having any electrical activity in his heart or mechanical activity of his heart,
Wow.
the perfusion that is happening is by CPR, as in the chest being pushed upon, indirectly is, you call it maybe indirectly pumping or moving blood flow.
Insane.
So there is perfusion, but in a significantly limited compared to someone not in cardiac arrest.
And as far as that perfusion process is concerned, what, if any, relation does that have to the organs within the body?
Well, so, if your perfusion is limited, then your organs are not getting the normal amount of blood flow and therefore oxygen and all the other nutrients that your blood's providing. So your organs will begin the process of failure.
You use the term in there as far as asystole. Could you explain to the jury what you understand that term to mean?
Sure. So asystole would be when you put the electrical leads on a patient's heart. The complete absence of intrinsic electrical activity from the heart would be asystole. So as in not having any observable or detectable electrical activity would be asystole.
Now, as far as these conditions, as far as cardiac arrest and asystole, what, if any, concerns does that raise from a diagnostic perspective in relation to Mr. O'Keefe?
I guess your question with respect to from a diagnostic perspective, I don't know exactly what you're asking me there.
Let me rephrase that. So with regard to those conditions that are observed and noted within the medical chart for Mr. O'Keefe that you have before you, how would that relate to his condition or
Oh yeah, thank you guys. I forgot. I forgot to do our compliment. Thank you guys. Y'all are the best. So Black Witter says, I like his soft hair. Yes. His tie. I like the color of his shirt. It's a very nice, like a ice blue, I'll call it. Yeah, it is funny. I didn't even think about that. How like sus as in to find out, but then also sus sounds like sus, like suspicious, which I say a lot. So that's funny. Yeah. Right.
Then you're doing treatment wise.
Well, so even with good CPR, the perfusion of the brain, for example, and this is what I think about frequently during resuscitative efforts like this, in, I couldn't tell you an exact time, but there's a certain, without perfusion of the brain for a certain amount of time,
oh my God.
You're limited with respect to, the concern is that the patient, even if you resuscitate their body, that there's potentially going to be brain death or anoxia or lack of oxygen to the brain and a poor outcome with respect to neurological outcome.
I will say,
now, as far as the resuscitative efforts,
Black Witter, I understand. That's why I'm just like figured, I'm going to be covering Chad after it's done anyway. But I will say, as far as this goes, this is the first time that they brought in anybody medically that's an official term, medically, at all. Like, again, like Fender said, they still haven't presented to the jury evidence that even a person died, but this is a step towards somebody was hurt, because it sounds like he was actually there that night at the ER. So that's it. He's talking like a medical lolly. And you know what's so funny? Because I was just saying medically, we can combine all those thoughts into one and get medical, and we can get this. Hold on. Medical lolly. New word.
Concern, is there any sort of standard sort of resuscitative protocols that would be undergone with someone who presents as Mr. O'Keefe did?
Yes.
And can you explain what those are?
So, in broad terms, there's ACLS, which is Advanced Cardiac Life Support. That's an algorithm that through medical training, I've learned, and is frequently the algorithm can be adjusted. There's also a ATLS for trauma patients.
Wow, this is crazy.
So there's an algorithm there with respect to
this is wild. I've never heard testimony like this from someone in the medical field. I will say, Fender, I know you're in the field of like psychology. However, of the group we have here right now, you have probably more medical training and knowledge than anybody else here. So feel free to chime in with things. Right. Yes.
Resuscitation or
Right.
guidelines, I guess, with respect to resuscitation.
And within those sort of guidelines or protocols, are you familiar with a medication called epinephrine?
Yes.
Someone had to do an autopsy, though. If he did die, right?
Or the diagnosis of Mr. O'Keefe.
I guess that'll be next.
So, in the time that I've been practicing, epinephrine is probably the only medication or drug that has persistently been in the ACLS pathway. It's adrenaline. So the idea is
He should have explained it. Thank you, Fender. But
loosely.
oh my God, he should be explaining this. Oh, wow.
You're attempting to affect
Wally should
upon
ask
the
him what
heart
it is.
itself.
Wow.
More.
This is insane.
Squeeze, as in more.
Okay.
More pressure.
This is insane. I have to say though, I've never heard anything like this ever. But really, when you think about it, isn't this kind of in line with what we would expect for this trial? This is like, no offense to this dude, but like, this is borderline like the leaf blower solo cups. Like this is crazy. I mean, absolutely. Absolutely. Right. Correct. And maybe prepped at some point at all. Thank you, Fender, for correcting all this. All we have to, we just need to keep in mind the jury's not going to have Fender with them, unfortunately. And they're going to be very confused. And it's Lolly's job. He should have been prepped to just explain those like we see in every other trial. However, if he's just plowing through those acronyms, Lolly should have said, and sorry to interrupt, can you please tell the jury what that is? Right? Maybe Lolly doesn't actually want the jury to understand. That would be right in line with his approach so far, I would say, right? It's like Lolly's just, maybe is Lolly's is Lolly's goal really just to confuse the jury? Again, we're back to the same thing of like, this whole thing is backwards. It's like the defense is trying to clarify things and get a timeline together and make sense of this. And then Lolly's just like, here, enjoy your confusion.
And also to increase the potential,
right.
or if there is electrical activity, to increase the amplitude of that electrical function at the cellular level.
And the thing is,
now in addition,
like everybody in every trial, they always have the people who are there medically, and they have the experts, right? However, they have the people who are trained to do the job that they said they did during whatever the case is. They should be able to explain the things that they did and what those things are. Think about it again. It's actually completely irrelevant to the jury if this guy's testifying using all these words that nobody knows what they mean, and then at some point later after him, or maybe there's other witnesses at some point, it could be next week, right? Because today's the only day in court. At some point, if an expert comes in and explains these things, it doesn't actually, none of his testimony matters because they don't understand what it means when he's talking about it, right? This is
To
insane.
the cardiac arrest and the asystole, as far as Mr. O'Keefe was concerned, what if any presentation did he have related?
Just listen for a second to him talking and you'll understand.
So I know his initial temperature was low. I was going to say I'd have to look, but I can see here that the nursing wrote in their notes that his
You're not supposed to read from your notes. Oh my God.
T equals
Oh my
80.1 R. So
Oh.
I interpret that to be his temperature was 80.1 degrees by rectal temperature.
Well, at least they didn't use the armpits,
Explain to the
guys.
jury sort of your
At least they
understanding as far
didn't
as
do armpit.
hypothermia, what
Shout out.
is it and how is that?
Corner
How
armpits.
does that present itself?
All right.
So, as it pertains to this case, there's a few ways to get hypothermic. If I at 12:20 were to have a cardiac arrest right now and stop perfusing, my current temperature of, my current temperature, I'm guessing is 98.6, right? A normal
is
temperature. Without
What is
perfusion, the body will lose, or excuse me, the core temperature
my
will
God.
decrease over time. The specifics of that I couldn't, or beyond my knowledge and training,
Well,
but
yeah,
that's
I believe that.
does that answer your question?
Right.
So as far
Well,
as
I don't even know what the
hypothermia is
question
concerned, is
was.
there a certain sort of
Oh my God.
baseline or what is sort of the typical temperature under which someone would be declared
Oh,
hypothermic
fuck.
or treated?
Listen.
I don't know if I could give you a definition of medically what a quote diagnosis of hypothermia. I couldn't tell you a number.
Oh boy.
I can tell you that 80 qualifies as hypothermia, but I couldn't tell you a number under which that definition applies.
But the temperature that Mr. O'Keefe presented with certainly fits within those parameters. Is that correct?
Yes, 80 degrees is very cold.
And as far as resuscitative efforts as they pertain to the core body temperature or the low core body temperature of Mr. O'Keefe, what, if anything, was done?
Right, but he's not supposed to be reading from them. Like we see this all the time with in every other trial, right? When there's anybody who's got medical reports, stuff like that, right? And they're allowed to look, just think back to Dr. Hughes, same, right? They're allowed to look down at it to refresh their recollection, which of course makes sense, right? When you've got numbers and shit like that. But he's looking down and just reading from it. I mean, it's up to the defense to object, but I understand why they're not, because it doesn't actually matter in this case. Like, it's just a disaster, so there's just no point. I mean, fuck.
Relation to treatment of that.
Sure. So, as the nursing note
He's just reading from
mentions,
it, you know what I mean?
there's a bear
is
hugger was
crazy.
applied. So that's a blanket that has warmed air being pumped through it. So that's a way of externally warming someone. He also, having reviewed the chart earlier, I don't see it right in front of you. Actually, I take that back.
Oh
He
my
had warm
God.
IV fluids running, so
This
IV
is
fluids
some-
not at room temperature, as
Holy
in
shit,
in
y'all.
a warmer or an oven of sorts, would have been given to him via intravenous or central venous access.
Oh boy.
And as far as the body temperature is concerned, what if
This is silly.
what if any relationship does the body temperature have and the warming process have as to a declaration of deceased?
Okay, at least we're getting into
Well, so there's a goal in resuscitative medicine to
that's a good point as well, Fender.
attempt to rewarm a body. Loosely the idea being
I've never heard anything like this. Fender, have you ever testified? Since again, it's psychology, right? Because I know there's like different fields more specific, but I believe psychology. But I'm curious if you've ever had to testify. This is wild. This is insane.
that the heart among other organs, will function
You know,
better or
I have to say, it's easy to forget about the dog lady, but the dog lady was very competent and knew her shit. And at this point, that's the closest thing the jury has seen to somebody who should be able to talk about stuff that they did in a way that is, you know, they're not, it's a material witness to what happened, or in terms of, you know, things other than just the events of the night, right? Like, but in other words, that's going to be their closest example. And if you compare him to her,
function at all in a
at least they found a good way
warmer
to
environment.
DNA.
That's one goal of resuscitation.
Wow. Like
With him, as I recall, we,
maybe?
despite, you know, resuscitative efforts for approximately half an hour, there
Dog lady Fender, she testified, you know, it was the only, again, this is like the first, like, I don't know what the right term to use is. She was not an expert witness. She seemed like it, but they did not offer her as an expert. But we talked about her briefly last night. I don't know if you were there for that or not, but it's this lady.
You would use a solo cup.
I'm sorry, what?
Objection, Your Honor.
Solo cup.
She tested for dog DNA on John O'Keefe's shirt. No, I know that. Yeah, I call her the dog lady. So I understand how you would think it's Chloe's mom, but no, it's the lady who is an expert at testing animal DNA and stuff.
there was not a
But, well, I say expert. She was not. They didn't offer her
not a
as an
significant warming of his core temperature.
And so, sir, with reference to Mr. O'Keefe, at some point, was he pronounced deceased by yourself?
Yes.
And do you see any indication within the chart as to what time that was?
Well, at least we know he was deceased.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree, Fender.
A moment here.
And it does seem like there's a lot of drinking that goes on in this community. No, she didn't. He asked her about solo cups.
According to my note, it looks like the time of death was death declaration was 7:50 in the morning. 50.
Okay, that's good to know. I'm going to write that down. I just want to clarify. This lady was very well trained and professional, and she was very credible. And so because of that, that's why on cross, he used her expertise. Jackson used her expertise very, very strategically to point out just how fucked the investigation when it came to humans in this case was, to how much more care they take at the lab where they test for animal DNA, not humans, but animals. And so he asked her, she was talking about how they collect and store these, you know, evidence of DNA and shit. And so he asked her, Jackson was asking her, like, so would you ever put things in a plastic container or whatever, blah, blah. And she's like, no, you wouldn't do that. And then eventually, and I just clipped it down to this one part, but eventually he asks her, so you're saying you wouldn't store things in a solo cup? And her reaction was priceless.
You would use a solo cup.
I'm sorry, what?
Objection, Your Honor.
Solo cup.
She's just confused. She's like, what are you even talking about? But that was the point. That's why he asked, because she went through all the steps that they take to properly handle evidence when it comes to animals. So yeah, you want to see it one more time?
You would use a solo cup.
I'm sorry, what?
Objection, Your Honor.
Solo cup.
Yeah. So, but yeah, she did not do anything wrong. She did a good job from everything we could tell. Yeah, she's the only one so far, I would
Now,
say.
as far as the
So wait, let me hear it one more
observations that
time.
you made as far
He
as-
died at 7:50.
Yes.
I'm gonna write it
Do
down.
you see any indication within the chart as to what time that was?
Sure. I'll just need a moment
Just
here.
read.
According to my note, it looks like the time of death was death declaration was 7:50 in the morning.
That's good. Finally.
50.
Finally. That's more than we've had. Yeah,
Now,
and I
as
love
far
that.
as
I think it's great.
The observations that you made as far as a systole and the cardiac arrest, did that persist throughout the course of your treatment, Mr. O'Keefe?
Yes.
So Lolly learned how to say it correctly, because when he was talking to one of the EMTs, remember he said, "Hey, systole," and it was really fucking funny. The question was, did the systole persist? when he died, I guess. I don't know. Lolly.
Let me just see that document.
All right, let's speed him up. Wow. Yeah, exactly. Finally. That's right. That's more than we've had.
Direct your attention to what's the fourth page in, bottom of it says 2 of 4, and I direct your attention to the top of that page. Do you see that?
Yes.
And as far as this is sort of a listing of observations, or well, let me ask you, can you describe what?
Oh my God,
at the
Lolly.
top of that page there?
Sure. So this would have been the physical exam documentation of my note. So, with respect to the head, it says,
Can you just say with respect to?
excuse me, the first word is other,
Oh
which I
my
believe is
God.
a function of the computer system.
Yes.
As in, I typed in there right superior orbital ridge region, approximately 7 millimeter laceration, and then with surrounding soft tissue swelling / contusion.
So if I could just stop you there, as far as what you're talking about with the right superior orbital ridge region, could you explain to the jury or demonstrate to the jury?
Sure. So the orbital ridge is the bone above your eye that you can, like where your eyebrow is or should, would normally be.
The way he's talking is really crazy.
As far as
It's like, this is wild.
things that you noted over the course of your physical exam or review of Mr. O'Keefe, what, if anything else of note, did you observe?
Well, according to my note, the only kind of observations other than would be that he had breath sounds present bilaterally. I observed that he was pulseless. His abdominal exam was atraumatic on my chart, and then extremity exam or musculoskeletal exam, I wrote that he had superficial abrasions on the right forearm.
There's
And from a medical perspective, when you
the
use that term
abrasions, the
just
script.
explain to the jury what you understand the term abrasions to mean.
Yeah, I use it as a medical synonym for scratches, if you will.
Right. Well, that's.
And
I think it's really. I was going to say hilarious, but I'm being sarcastic. That Lolly clarified that, but not all the other things. When in fact, at this point, the jury has heard many times over from like the EMTs and stuff, 2 definitions: contusion and abrasion. They know what that is, but yet that's what Lolly chooses to have them define. Anyway, but yeah, that's what, we don't know really what that came from, but there's thoughts it could have been related to a dog.
Sure. Neuro or neurological, there's a listing as far as a GC3,
Yeah.
correct?
Yes.
And can you explain what that is and what that means?
So GC is what I charted. What I probably intended to write there was GCS, which is a Glasgow Coma Scale, which is a scoring system to identify someone's level of consciousness or unresponsiveness.
And as far as the 3, where does the scale start? Where does it go to? And where does the 3 fit in?
So there's 3 components: verbal function, motor function, and eye or ocular function. And someone who's completely unresponsive, as in no motor, no verbal, and no eye movement or function, completely unresponsive, the lowest you can get on the scale is 3.
That's fine. He doesn't go to 0.
May I approach Mr. Richard?
Yes.
They are different. I'm just saying those are the only words that have been defined for the jury so far, like multiple times over by every EMT. They defined both of those words for them. Right. Yeah.
Later on over the course of that same morning, did you have occasion to become involved?
They would say, an abrasion is similar to a scratch and a contusion is similar to a bruise. Like every single EMT, Lolly asked every single EMT to define that. And that's like pretty much what they all said. So in other words, like the jury's well aware of those terms, but like they just glossed over all the other terminology from early on. Right. And the jury would have no idea. They haven't answered this question yet. I don't think. Well, not with this witness.
Treatment of another patient by the name of Karen Reed.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay.
May I approach the witness again, Your Honor?
Now we're getting to the thing about where they, section 12, is that what it was called? Her? The fellow said the lowest you can have from GCS is 3. We don't know his name because court cameras hadn't come back on yet. So we don't know his name.
In general, sir, do you recognize what that is?
Yes.
So what do you recognize it?
the first part I recognized would have been the medical record or medical note with respect to Miss Reed, who was also a patient that morning.
Yeah, so the
Honor,
section
I'll
12.
seek to introduce in a minute the next exhibit, a redacted copy of those records.
And remember, let's refresh our memory, especially because where this came out was before I started doing recaps, and I didn't recap from the beginning. I started the recaps from at the time where it was in trial. But just to refresh everyone's memory, including my own, what happened with the section 12 was like, if I recall, y'all let me know, but I'm pretty sure. So like the EMTs and stuff and the first responders didn't see any need to section 12 her. My understanding is that it was the law enforcement that made that call, but that will be interesting to see what if anything, to quote Lolly, he can say about it. It seems like the medical people thought she was fine and the law enforcement didn't, or something along those lines. And then maybe her family, according to Jen,
Sir, do you know about what time was it that
family
Ms.
got
Reed came into
involved.
the emergency department at Good Samaritan that morning?
You didn't look, whatever.
I mean, I can tell you from this chart, it looks like that her,
Right. Thank you. Yeah.
at least the first posted vital signs were from 7:51, 5:1 in the morning.
And that's what Jen McCabe said, actually.
In reference to Miss Reed, what is it that she came into?
Right.
Good
Thank
Samaritan
you, guys.
In regard to? Why is she there?
I'd have to review Daisy's note. So
Well, that's someone else's notes. Oh boy.
Let me ask you this, sir. Was it in reference to section 12? Do you recall?
yes.
Now I
With
do
regard to
remember,
section-
I do remember her saying something to the extent, like in terms of what was reported from testimony from Jen and maybe Carrie. Again, we're going to be reviewing that testimony tonight, so we'll have a better idea. But I do know that it was some of the testimony was that she was saying things like, I couldn't live without him and stuff like that, right? Like I couldn't go on without him, things along that line, which A, isn't really what you would be saying, like if you were in a bad place and that really, I don't know, but that was a secondary thought. My initial thought was that, you know, potentially could that have been misconstrued or something, but as to like unaliving or whatever, but I think that's actually, you know, obviously it's a very normal thing for people to say when they're faced with potentially losing a loved one. She couldn't take care of the kids. Right. Well, I remember she does it. She asks, according to Jen, she asked Jen, will you take care of the kids if something happens to me? I guess here's the thing. Like, let's think about it this way. So that those statements, because that's important to address anyway, because we've kind of not talked that much about it. The statements that this is according to Jen, right? But according to Jen, the statements about, will you come visit me? Or will you take care of the kids? Karen, according to the testimony so far, did not specify what she meant by that. And here's the thing. If you're the prosecution, well, let's say you're the prosecution, but you're someone not Lolly who's actually smart. You're going to probably try to elicit testimony that makes it seem as if Karen was realizing she would be going to jail. However, I will say this. If you're the defense, the better option is to make it seem like she was so distraught and she was accepting the fact that she might need to actually go into a place, right? This is where I'm thinking of the hospital stay. And that what she meant by that was that she realized, maybe you could say she realized she was going to be going, or maybe she even had awareness of the section 12. We don't know a lot of this information yet, but that those comments were because we're not referring to prison, but they're referring to, you know, some sort of facility, if that makes sense. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Correct. Yeah, and again, we'll hear that tonight, so we'll be able to go through that more. Right. Thank you, Fender. Yeah, absolutely. Glad you're back, Super Planner Girl. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense though, right? Like, in other words, if they can either try to refute that she said those things, which they didn't do back when Jen was testifying, that would have been the time. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, because again, if you're the defense, the better option would be to say like she was accepting or recognizing, or maybe she caught wind of the Section 12 and that she realized she was going to be going into a facility. Because again, it's vague, right? Those comments are vague. Will you take care of the kids? Will you come visit me? And that could go either way. So that will be very interesting. We did not. So even though we went until like 3 a.m. So we're going to start. I stopped it on purpose before we got so we finished Jen. So we're going to start Carrie tonight. So, because I actually already have most of that already done. So we're going to start Carrie tonight, probably finish her, and hopefully even go through just maybe a brief overview of the Sisters Sullivan, if I think there's anything important there as I go through it. And maybe potentially, depending on how much time we have, we might even be able to start actually going through Higgins, because he's the next witness after the Sullivans. So yeah, but Carrie will be tonight. And again, I'm really excited to do that because her testimony is really important. And I haven't gone through it with a fine tooth comb because I've been streaming Higgins and these, this fellow, whatnot. Anyway, but we'll be doing that tonight in the recap. So yeah, look forward to that.
Well, patients that come in regard to that, what kind of involvement do you have, or who, if anyone, do you work with in regard to those types of patients?
Sure. So a Section 12,
All right.
I would define as an involuntary detention of a person.
So my question,
usually for a mental health.
the question on my mind right now is, when did Karen learn? This is important. This might have come up, DSN will probably remember, at the very beginning of trial, maybe when they were going through the EMTs, maybe. But the question I have is, when did Karen learn she was being Section 12? I think that matters in terms of the proximity to making those statements to Jen.
Concern.
Absolutely.
Whether that's self-harm or harm to others, or if someone who's, afflicted with schizophrenia or psychosis, members of the public can bring someone to or the police or members of the public can bring someone to the hospital on a Section 12, which, again, involuntarily detains them for evaluation.
And in addition to yourself, is there other staff? You mentioned that there were physician's assistants or nurses that were working. How much involvement would you typically have with someone who comes in on that kind of prognosis or diagnosis?
I would say, to answer your question, my involvement is variable and dependent a lot of times on what that nurse practitioner or physician assistant feels like they need or want my involvement to be.
And what kind of involvement would you have as far as when someone comes in with that kind of issue?
Honestly,
protocol
in terms of those statements that were made to Jen, according to Jen, I don't know that was made very clear because that came out on direct. And we watched it last night. When I'm doing the timestamps, I'll get to hear it again. And I'll timestamp that specific moment for you guys. I don't know that I'll have those done before tonight, though, because I'm just doing a lot of things. And so I don't recall exactly when Karen made those statements to Jen, potentially. And again, I don't know, maybe it might not even have been made clear because it was from direct examination. It could have been actually, because there were a lot of different interactions. There was also the exchange about, getting John O'Keefe's parents involved and getting the different phone numbers. And it was around that point, I feel like, in the testimony is when that question is asked of her. So I don't know. I don't think it was immediate upon finding the body, but other than that, we'll have to go back and look unless somebody just remembers. Like potentially DSN might remember specifically when Jen says that happened. You mean who called the cops in terms of for Karen? Or I assume you mean for Karen. It was DSN was saying it was her dad. And I know that what came in at trial so far from Jen was Jen said her parents, but I don't think she said specifically the dad. I think she said the parents. Yeah. So, but either way, dad or parents, right? They called for the Section 12. So in other words, the question is, did Karen make those statements to Jen after either Karen talked to her parents or somebody talked to her parents enough to where her parents found out something was going on, right? In other words, the parents would have, did the parents learn quickly enough? And then did Karen find out she was being Section 12? Or, in reference to when these statements were made. Thank you, DSN. So Karen left Carrie with the cops, called Carrie, Wait, hold on. I think there's a word missing. Okay. Karen left with Carrie and the cops called Carrie and her. I think there's a word missing. So the question though is like, we need the whereabouts of Jen and when those statements were made to Jen about, like, that's just what I'm thinking. I'm thinking the significance with all this is those statements of, you know, like it was actually, you gave me the idea, DSM, when you said the thing about the kids. Yeah, I don't know. I could be reading. I'm not able to understand what's happening in this statement or quote. So, so whoever called 911 initially in terms of the body being found, that was Jen. And they did send EMTs and police from what we understand, right? And then this was a separate thing, the Section 12, right? Did I read it correctly or not? Asked her to drive? Oh, maybe. Okay. Karen left with Carrie and the cops called Carrie and asked her to drive. Thank you, Fender. I think you're right. Is that correct, DSN? Asked her to drive Karen back to 34 Fairview. Okay. But what about Jen? Where's Jen and all that?
That Good Samaritan would undergo with reference to that patient. What are you doing with reference to the patient when they arrive?
Oh my God, the with references.
I'm sorry. I think I don't really understand what the question is.
No,
Yeah, that's not your fault. It was a terrible question.
With regard to a patient coming in on a Section 12,
every witness
what happens
in
with
this
that person
trial
once they present?
has been confused by Lolly's question.
So whether they're evaluated by me or a nurse practitioner or physician assistant, if that person feels like, based on their evaluation, that they need a mental health consult or evaluation, then they would have that initiated, as well as what we do for a lot of patients or all patients' vital signs and sometimes blood work as well.
And when it comes to that sort of blood work or assay, as far as what's being done with someone who comes in with that kind of report, what is sort of being tested and what is being looked at as far as the blood work is concerned?
Well, there's a few reasons to get blood work, but
so with this being the case, then I could see it happening where so imagine if so if the cops call Carrie and have her bring Karen back, I wonder if Carrie's like, hey, Karen, or we're going to listen to this testimony tonight, but like if Karen figured out that something was going on then, or maybe even specifically was told, we're going to find out hopefully, but I'm wondering if then it's when they return, then maybe is it after that she makes those statements to Jen about the kids and about visiting her. I'm wondering. Right? I know. In the car or her sister's bedroom, timeline 404 not found. Right? Fucking hell.
in general, part of the evaluation is, with respect to the
Actually,
medical presentation, to make sure there's no medical emergencies
It was 1.25, but let's bump it up. To
present,
1.5.
in addition to whatever the mental health concern may be. There's also blood work drawn with respect to disposition, as far as some people, for example, it would be inappropriate to have a mental health evaluation if, for example, I were intoxicated on alcohol and my alcohol level were elevated, because I think the idea is that you're not getting, a true representation maybe of what's going on.
That is interesting testimony that the defense can totally use to their advantage. Did y'all hear that? He said if they're intoxicated, it may not be an appropriate time to evaluate them. Well, which is it then? Commonwealth, because part of her charges, as y'all know, it has to do with the intoxication. So that is very interesting. Huh. What's Lolly going to say about that? Y'all see why that? Do you guys want to hear that again? That's important testimony. I'll play it again just in case you missed it. So that way I'm not quoting it and you can hear the real.
Be inappropriate to have a mental health evaluation if, for example, I were intoxicated on alcohol and my alcohol level were elevated, because I think the idea is that you're not getting, a true representation maybe of what's going on.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
So am I correct in that someone presents and then there's like sort of you medically clear that person as far as any sort of injuries or anything like that first?
I wouldn't say first necessarily. I think a lot of times these processes happen in parallel.
In parallel, you have the
that was my first thought, Fender, but then I was like, wait, hold on. This actually has a bigger significance because of the fact that they're all claiming that, well, the Commonwealth is charging Karen with, there's the alcohol related charges, right? But like everybody said she didn't seem intoxicated. at the bar,
And then sort of a psychological clearance as well.
Yeah, right?
Sometimes, yes.
And then sort of involved in both of those, there would be blood drawn in reference to section 12 as far as a typical one would be looking for sort of alcohol and drugs of abuse, things of that nature.
I mean, I'm hesitant to answer yes because of the word typical, because I wouldn't say there's really a typical presentation with respect to
Right? That's
mental health presentations in the ER.
Dr. Spiegel.
And from your
Right,
or your
thank
review
you.
card, was that done as far as the blood work done?
Wow.
Ms. Reed on this day?
Are you asking me if blood work was drawn?
Yes.
I believe so. I have to
boy.
double check. So yes, it looks like there was blood work drawn.
And among the things that were tested within the facility,
Huh.
Good Samaritan was was an alcohol screen, is that correct?
Yes.
And what is the result of that alcohol screen?
Here.
Contained within those records?
Here we go. Fender. You called it. Blood alcohol level.
Do I answer or no?
Yes.
So it looks like 93.93. I'd have to maybe look deeper in the chart to tell you the units of that measurement. I don't want to guess. So but to answer your question, 93.
May I approach this briefly on?
Yes.
That's 0.93, right? I mean, assuming it's the same scale we hear about usually. Wait, 0.93, wouldn't you be dead? Hold on. Is this a different metric? I think you'd be dead, right?
I'm directing your attention to a top portion of that.
So are you saying they should not have section 12 or what?
Contained within that record, sir.
So yes, it looks like it's milligrams per deciliter.
Thank you, sir. May I approach this retrieve, Your Honor?
Yes.
So I guess,
Thank you, sir. I have no further questions of this witness, Your Honor.
Ms. Little?
well, all right. So from what I can tell, that was a different metric from what we're used to hearing about when it comes to DUI, right? Because he said 93. And I was like, does he mean 0.93? Or does he mean 0.093? Like, I'm wondering if it's like 93 because you have to move but why the fuck did Lolly not ask him this? This is absurd. Sorry. Because, yeah, here it's 0.08. That's what I said, Fender. I was like, wait, 0.93 should be dead. So my thought is it's supposed to be 0.093. So just to have a visual verse, let me do this. Hold on. So like, okay, here's a visual. Here's what I'm thinking he means. He said 93. My guess is he's saying 0.093. The legal limit here is 0.08. So 0.08 versus 0.093, barely over the legal limit. But they charged her with, I forget what DSN probably knows. They charged her with, I mean, they were making a big deal about the alcohol, like in that charge. So that's, because isn't it there's supposed to be aggravating factors? Like that's not a high enough. That's because like, at least in here in North Carolina, but in every state, it's like, there's a certain threshold when you get over that, it's like automatically like more aggravated, but it's like after you get to like 0.1 something, if you've got a 0 first, anyway, we'll see. I'm sure it'll come out and cross, or hopefully, this little.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
You testified that you treated Ms. Reed when she arrived at the hospital on January 29th, correct?
I don't know if I testified that I treated her, but I was involved in her care. Yes,
You actually wrote the reports regarding her care, correct?
that is not correct.
Would it refresh your recollection to take a look at the report?
The report, I believe we're talking about the note, the emergency room note was written by a nurse practitioner.
Would it refresh your recollection to take a look at some additional reports from January 29th?
Sounds like you want to show me some reports, so sure.
Whoa. Didn't expect that from him. Wow. Okay. Interesting. 0.08 is the legal limit here in the US. 0.08.
May I approach? Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Is your recollection refreshed? Do you
I
recall
forgot I was
seeing
on
Ms. Reed
I
on
was on 1.5.
I do not.
Do you recall writing a report that has your name, Justin Rice, on it from January 29th?
No, it depends what you define report as. To best answer your, well,
Wow.
do I recall writing this note? No. Was that what your question was?
So is it your testimony that do you recall treating Ms. Reed at all?
No, I don't.
Oh,
Do you recall actually ordering her blood in this case?
No,
okay.
Do you recall sending it out to the labs at all?
no,
Was he also drunk?
As you sit here today, you don't know who
Was he drunk
collected the
then?
blood?
And is he drunk now?
that's correct.
You don't know who packaged the blood,
That would also be a fair assessment, yes,
and you don't know who submitted that to the lab.
correct.
It wasn't you, correct?
I can confidently say that I did not like collect blood work. Yeah, I did not do that.
Okay. You testified that you treated Mr. O'Keefe upon arrival on January 29th, correct?
Yes.
Did a firefighter ever approach you on the morning of January 29th and tell you that he had information suggesting that the victim had been struck by a vehicle?
Objection.
Do you remember that?
I do not.
So if a firefighter indicated that he informed you that he had information suggesting that Mr. O'Keefe had been in some sort of vehicular accident, that's something that you would have included in your report, correct?
I don't know if that's a fair assumption.
But as you sit here today, you have no recollection whatsoever of anyone telling you that the victim had appeared to be in some sort of car accident, correct?
Well, I think I don't have it in front of me, but I think my note that I prepared for Mr. O'Keefe states that per EMS for
Candace, you mean he just shouldn't have a horse in the window? He shouldn't have a butt in the dial? He shouldn't have a snow in the plow?
Dr. Rice, you have no record. Apologies.
Oh boy. The only thing about Miss Little is there's so many errors that there's a lot of downtime where there's nothing happening because she's trying to fix things.
So I don't think he finished his answer.
Oh boy.
So I think what I was trying to say, right, was that on my note, it says per EMS report. So one of the medics, as in one of the folks on the ambulance who brought Mr. O'Keefe in, again, I'm not right in front of my note, but as I recall, it said something to the effect of per EMS report, the patient may have been struck by a vehicle.
Oh,
Can I show you a copy of that report?
Please.
there you go. Brian and the Brian. That's a good one. That's a brilliant, Fender. Brian and the Brian. I'm going to save that. Brilliant. I've got no Brian in this Brian. Y'all, I can't with this. I'm sorry. Just get your shit together. I'm sorry. I can't. Like, let's. The last time she questioned somebody, it was the same thing. I think she's only done one witness, and it was all these delays like this, and it just drove me crazy. More than usual, right? With getting shit together.
All right. So,
I'll ask the question. Is your recollection fresh?
yes.
Is there anywhere on that report that says that the patient came in and there was a statement by EMS
Here.
that the victim appeared to have been struck by a vehicle?
Just give me a moment to read through
He's reading it. So the point is that he was saying that he didn't. What was his initial statement? He wasn't aware about her being struck by a vehicle, or him, sorry. And then what she's saying is she's basically kind of impeaching him or whatever, saying, isn't it true that one of the EMTs had mentioned that? I believe is what's going on.
So no, there's not.
In fact, there's no mention of a vehicle whatsoever.
Oh, there's no mention of a vehicle. There we go. Oh, I see what's happening.
That's correct.
Okay. I think what happened was his memory was that someone had mentioned a vehicle, but she's essentially showing him his notes to look at, and he's looking at his notes, and he's saying that nothing says anything about a vehicle in the notes.
Dr. Rice, did you observe Mr. O'Keefe's injuries when he arrived at the hospital that morning?
So in other words, it's almost like someone must have mentioned it after the fact, right? And so then he's like, yeah, that's what I remember. But like she's showing to him, here's the notes from the EMTs when he arrived. There was no mention of a vehicle.
Yes, you'd have to define what observe injuries means.
Oh,
Over the course
wow.
of your treatment, did you inspect him for injuries?
Wow.
So, yes,
You testified that you observed certain abrasions and scratches on his right arm, correct?
yes,
He didn't
Aside from
mention a
the fingers to
gash.
his right arm, and I believe you described sort of laceration above his eye.
Right. I actually, hold
Dr.
on.
O'Keefe did not have a single other.
Let me pause that because I actually noticed this, but I didn't say anything because we were all still so very confused as to what the hell was happening. He did not mention the gash on the head. And remember, when I accidentally saw those pictures, that was the thing that was the most notable thing to me. That gash is significant. It's substantial. It is way worse than the way anyone's described it thus far in the trial. He didn't even mention the gash. And remember, to me, these are just my theories in terms of what could have caused it by looking at it. Possibilities from what we know so far is that things that existed, right? The top of that fire hydrant, the roundy thing at the top, and we've pointed that out in previous streams, and then potentially the edge of a snowplow, because it looks like something that's blunt but also sharp, and like potentially there was also an element of like gravity that would have caused that just from accidentally seeing it.
Injury on his body from the neck down, correct?
I don't know if that's fair to say.
Well, you didn't report a single injury to his shoulders, correct?
Right, Fender. Thank you. That's well said. That's what I wanted to
Correct.
articulate.
You did not report a single injury to his chest, correct?
She's going to
Correct.
get to the head.
You did
Hold
not
on.
report a single injury to his torso, correct?
The head is the biggest
Correct.
thing.
You did not report a single injury to his back, correct?
Correct.
Not
You
mentioning
also
the
did not
gash.
report a single injury to his ribs, correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
No injury to his hips.
she didn't get to the gash. Yeah, I noticed. this.
Correct.
You observed no injury to his knees, correct?
I reported no injuries to his knees. Correct.
No injuries to his shins, correct?
Correct.
No injuries to his ankles, right?
Correct.
And no injuries to his feet.
Correct.
From the neck down, he did not have a single broken bone, right?
I don't know if that's a fair assessment or statement.
You certainly didn't notate in your report that he had any broken bones from the neck down, correct?
No, I did not. I'd happy to explain that, but to answer your question, no, I did not.
You did not report a single fracture from the neck down, correct?
I did not report a single fracture. Correct.
The injuries that you testified to today were that he had sort of a laceration above his eyelid, correct?
The injuries that I testified to today, correct. Yes.
And the scratches on his right
Oh
arm.
boy.
On the right forearm. Yes.
No further questions.
Why didn't she mention the gash? I'm numb.
Dr. Rice, with reference to
Did she?
fractures or broken
Did I
bones,
miss it? Did I miss her mentioning the gash? Let me rewind that. I'm going to be even more confused if she doesn't ask me about the gash, because the gash to me, if you see it, don't look for it. It's awful. But to me, I'm like, oh, that looks like cause of death, maybe in conjunction with the hypothermia. But like that gash was the gnarly thing of all the injuries that you could visibly
Neck
see.
down, correct?
I did not report a single fracture. Correct.
The injuries that you testified
Oh.
to today were that he had sort of a laceration above his eyelid, correct?
The injuries that I testified to today, correct. Yes.
And the scratches on his right arm.
On the right forearm. Yes.
So yeah, no gash.
No
That's insane. So essentially all the things that really matter, like broken bones and the freaking gash to his head and the skull fracture, right? Oh boy.
questions.
What a mess. What a mess.
Dr. Rice, with reference to
Wow.
fractures or broken bones,
So- This could also explain why he's been such a disaster on the stand, because maybe he knew this was coming and that this is making a mockery of the medical profession.
can you explain
Yeah,
sort of?
I know.
why
I
that
just
may
have
not
never
be
seen
noted
it.
Or why that wasn't included within the chart?
Sure. Yeah, I'd like to. So
Okay.
with a patient like Mr. O'Keefe who came in, the focus of myself and the team of physician assistant, nurse practitioner, and nurses, whoever was helping in a case like this, the focus is in core resuscitative medicine, of securing an airway, making sure he has a breathing tube in, making sure that the CPR is being applied the right pressure to the right place, making sure that the core resuscitative elements of medicine are happening, unless as in the mind can only focus on so much. So I think in cases like this,
Right. And the smaller the
because
mind,
the attention is on
the less
resuscitation
that is,
of
right?
someone's heartbeat, their life, there's less focus on injuries or observations that
Oh boy.
don't coincide with the resuscitation effort or not pertinent to that resuscitative effort, if that answers
No,
if that answers your question.
That was a fucking
In that
mess.
vein, it's not like you're doing x-rays or a full skeletal survey or something like
No, we're not doing a full skeletal survey. No.
that. Because you're more concerned with the fact that his body
Well,
temperature is.
Wally,
He's
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. A full skeletal survey. Again, I think that from layperson's opinion here, between even a broken bone and that gash to the head, I would say that gash to the head would have been more life-threatening, more of an emergency, and also is something you just see with your eyeballs. Like, you don't have to do a full any type of fancy survey thing.
blood and.
You don't have to stop resuscitation to see that. You can do
Correct, unless there was an extremity injury that would be pertinent to his resuscitation. If he had had a traumatic amputation, as in removal of a leg, for example, that would be pertinent to a resuscitation. But an otherwise intact extremity,
What about the head?
that
Fucking
is not
hell.
necessarily within the realm of resuscitation.
Aren't head injuries important for breathing and life on Earth?
I'm going to direct your attention on document indicates discharge and clinical impression.
Like, if the brain is impacted, that can affect breathing.
Read to yourself.
So what, you'd like me to read out loud?
So as far
You
as
said-
the chart is concerned, as far as your clinical impression of
Oh,
of Mr.
boy.
O'Keefe, can you read sort of what you?
Sure, right. So I wrote clinical impression, cardiac arrest, head trauma, exposure to environmental cold.
And approach retriever.
Yes.
Right?
No further questions.
Anything further, Ms. Little?
No further questions.
All right, thank you, Dr.
All right, who's next? Break. Or what? Maybe they did the break after the children.
Rather than where it's 10 minutes of one, jurors, can we do an abbreviated lunch today so we can get as much
Oh.
of the testimony in as possible? So it's 10 minutes of one. Why don't we? come
Thank
together?
you. I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
so we get
That's
as much
awesome.
testimony today. We'll see to say
Thank
yes.
you.
If that changes, just let Officer Delano or Officer Biden know. Okay, thank you. So we'll see that.
Yeah, I agree, Fender. See, I'm not an expert, but that is what I thought using common sense. Definitely. Yeah.
You are muted.
So they're going to lunch. Come on, everybody. Come on. So wait, not that. Oh my God. Today is crazy. This is a crazy day. Yes, it is. All right. We're here with the only fan. Hold on. Oh, and it looks like, hold on. There. So this we have it. So they're going to take an abbreviated. Actually, let me do this, y'all. I'm going to back it up, and see how long she says the lunch is. Because if they take an abbreviated lunch, they might be back fairly soon. Let me just see. So we were a little bit behind live. We can do the math. Well, we can try anyway. I can try. Y'all, I'm sure y'all can do it. So yeah, so look, see, this is what I'm saying. We were, okay. So let's get to the.
Right, so I wrote,
One, jurors, can we do an abbreviated lunch today so we can get as much of the testimony in as possible? So it's 10 minutes of one. Why don't we come back here at 1:30?
1:30.
Can we go until 4:30 today? People seem to say yes. If that changes, just let Officer Delano or Officer Biden know. Okay, thank you. So we'll see you back here at 1:30.
All right, so the court, please.
You are muted.
All right. So here's the thing. Do we have any idea who's next? I don't think we do. But yeah, basically 14-ish minutes potentially. Let me look and see if anybody from court has an idea of who might be next. So they are doing the full day. Well, for them, a full day is not a full day, but anyway. Let me see what I can find. As far as if they know who's next. I'm not, are y'all seeing anything anywhere that is saying who might be next? Because sometimes people that are there have an idea. And thank you so much for sharing my video, Random Girl. I appreciate that. Okay. Let me just do this. I still have it just like before. I have the video still pulled up, so I'll see if they come back. All right, so oh wow. So we're only 13 minutes away if they come back on time. So yeah, so I'm wondering who it is. Hmm. So, all right, here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I'm gonna do, guys. All right, I'm gonna end this stream and take a few minutes to work on the video for tonight and maybe schedule that stream. That will probably, what goes on with that will probably depend on who takes a stand next. For example, if it's like a Trooper Proctor situation, then I'll make an executive call. And what will happen is instead of doing a recap tonight on Carrie, like I was talking about, we would be doing that tomorrow. And instead I would stream, like, in other words, I would stream that. It depends on who the next witness is. If it's something that is, not all that crazy, wouldn't we all would Black Widow? I mean, it's just, let's hope that something comes in, like medically. So yeah, Fender. So that's what I'm saying is like, it kind of depends on who this next witness is. And we'll know in about this point, 11 minutes probably, because if it's not something crazy, then I will work on getting everything together so we can have a recap in like 7-ish hours or so. And do care, and we'll cover, like I said, we'll cover Carrie Roberts and everything. But if it's like a Trooper Proctor, I'm trying to think of who else is left that I would say like stop everything to cover it. I don't know. I'm sure there could be somebody else, but I just can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, like if it's something crazy, then I will stream that. But the trade-off is I won't have a video done for tonight. So right. I know. Right. Exactly. Black Widows, you're exactly right. We can't assume. Yeah. Right. We need to know the nature of the injuries. We need to know the cause of death, all that. The gash has a curve to it. Correct. Are you seeing it too? So that's why for me, the edge of the snowplow, initially I was thinking the fire hydrant, but that was before we really heard much more about other things. Once they started mentioning the white Jeep and it was all, the testimony was all funny about it. Like that, I had that idea as soon as that was brought up and he had a snowplow and then people were like cagey about it. I was like, that's when it dawned on me. I was like, wait a second. And that's when I realized, looks like it could have been a snowplow. So, yeah, we can hang out here. I mean, I don't have anything ready for y'all. You know what I mean? Like I don't have entertainment planned. Who's the other trooper? Oh, Trooper, you mean Yuri Buchanan? There's definitely some other people where I'm thinking to myself, oh yeah, I wonder if they'll call so-and-so, but most of them are other people that we heard just in passing. But Trooper Proctor, but I don't know if also though, I don't know if they would want to start him when they're only going to have a couple hours left and then they're not going to have court again until next week. So there's that as well. Right. You said it, not me. Entirely possible. The only thing I will say is he did have injuries on like both sides of his body, like face. Like there was front and back. That's the only reason why it could explain if he was hit by something or struck by something or pushed by something. I'm not even saying it had to be a car in the front, right? my thought is that maybe the snowplow's behind him and something happens. I don't know if it doesn't matter. It's this juncture, if it's accidental or on purpose, because we just still have no idea what the injuries are, right? We'll get to the rest of it. But like if he was accidentally hit by something from the front or on purpose hit by something from the front, that could explain the injuries to the front of the face. And then let's say that's how he fell and hit his head on the back of the head, potentially with the snowplow. And then that, yeah, Buchanan. Yeah. I don't know how to spell it, but Buchanan. I could spell it in Cyrillic. That's helpful for y'all. Yes, that's correct. She did. The internet will never forget that one. That was a whole, moment. I could play something. It's so funny because like all the time when I have plans, they get derailed by like all the other stuff. But like right now I don't like now. Let me look at my video files because like I've always got stuff. Let me just look through. I don't want to start Carrie Roberts for obvious reasons. So does anybody care about how to take care of orchids at all? We could watch videos on taking care of. Actually, Candace might care about that. Oh man, what else have we got? I have an idea. Idea time. All right. Oh, did you even play music?
Really?
I know, right? This is the jury view.
Really, how lucky you're about the world. You can get on
You guys have a request for a song? Okay, y'all let me know. We can do jury view. We can do songs. We can do orchid video. All right, we got a request for waterfall. You got it, my friends. Here we go. Y'all ready to get crunk?
Do 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 do. 339 Canton time. Jackson United, it's time to shine. There's snow, there's snow, there's snow, there's snow. To the window, to the wall, to the wall, to the bartender's last call. At the waterfall. Ah, sleep, sleep, motherfucker. Ah, sleep, sleep, goddamn. Ah, sleep, sleep, motherfucker. Ah, sleep, sleep, goddamn. They'll crunk and act and meet. Rhymes will be rest when they have too much drink in their minds. Everything's fine, they've been active, already gathered about 50 damn times. To the window, to the wall, to the wall. The bartender's last call. At the waterfall. Ah, sleep, sleep, motherfucker. Ah, sleep, sleep, goddamn, goddamn. Ah, sleep, sleep, motherfucker. Ah, sleep, sleep, goddamn. Do, 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 do.
Gotta give the people what they want. Y'all know what I mean? Gotta give the people what they want. At this point, yeah, I was about to start laughing. It was waterfall. Also, hold on. Okay, we've only got a couple minutes till they might come back. So let me do this. We'll just, for fun, we'll just watch a little bit of this orchid video, which I actually was making for Super Planner Girl as like a instructionary video for her because when she was getting her orchids. Let me see. Do 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 do. I don't know. I have a bunch of these orchid videos. I don't know which one this is about. Let's just see. I have no idea. This will be fun. A surprise for everyone.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about orchid care. So first thing is
Oh my
the
God.
best window for an orchid is
Oh,
eastern
let's all
facing.
learn.
Also, just look at how beautiful.
I did.
Eastern facing.
I did edit it, Fender. I added the zoom in for dramatic effect to the fan.
Southern is the second best, but they say eastern facing is the ideal window. I didn't actually know anything about, I don't know directions at all. I would have no idea. So turns out the iPhone has a built-in under like the tools or whatever, like where you have like measure and stuff, calculator, there's a compass and you just point it at a direction and it tells you. So so an eastern facing window is kind of ideal. You can tell a lot about the amount of light real quick by looking at the orchid leaves. So, you know, you want that nice like medium green, like grassy green color. If they're way too dark, it could mean it's not enough light. And then if they're way too light in color, or if they get
We have a little bit of
sunburned,
everything here.
obviously that's too much light. And the sunburn it's kind of like human sunburn. And it would be on the leaves, not on the blooms.
Here is an example.
So that being said, let's talk about the parts of the orchid. So the leaves. So obviously these are the leaves. As we've talked about a little bit before, the flower spikes, which are the tall spikes with the flowers, in my mind, I initially was like, oh, that must be a stem. No, that's a flower spike. So the flower spikes, like we said, come from like the stem of the orchid. So I'll just use this as an example since I'm right here. So the stem,
yes, Fender,
is actually in the potting media. So you can't really see it. It's kind of where the initial roots are. As the orchid produces more roots, it makes itself taller, and of course, then eventually you will repot it into a larger pot.
Just real quick for anyone who's confused, we're just waiting for another minute or two until they come back from lunch in Canton to see who's next on the stand. So yeah, actually, my first video explains the parts of the orchid. Yeah, brown all over the leaves. That's interesting. Let me see if I can pull up my initial, this is orchids part 2. Let me see if I can pull up the orchids part 1, because that'll just go over the parts of the orchid. We really should have started there if we're going to do it right. Yeah, I have 4 orchids. Let me find this is probably orchids part 1 here. Okay, I'm downloading it, I believe. Just a sec, guys. Okay, so let's talk about a couple. Oh my gosh. Okay, hold on, guys. Sorry. How do I? It should be down. I don't know what's happening. Oh, it is downloading it. Okay. So hold on. Let me just see if it's downloaded to my computer. Okay, I see where it is. All right, cool. Let me see if I can pull this up. Coolio. So you have fake plants. Yeah, I've had the worst luck with plants, and that's actually part of why I am doing this with the orchids, because I wanted to see if I could actually do it. And so they're like the hardest plant, or one of them apparently. And but so far I'm doing well. So let me find. Where the heck? Trying to find where that went. Aha. Okay, here we go. Got it. Got it. Got it. Yay. Here we go. Here it is. Okay. Okay, so let's talk real quick about a couple of the things you want to look for when you're purchasing an orchid. First thing to think about is they're going to come in these, most of the time, these like plastic, go for it, Fender. Like tunnel, like sleeves, like usually from top to bottom, because it holds makes the leaves go vertical so that they can actually line more of them up on one shelf or whatever for space. But then when you cut that off or pull it out, get rid of that, then the leaves settle to the side like they should. But the first thing you want to really look at is this area. So the leaves, the crown, the stem, and the roots. Right. And what you'll usually see is the aerial roots. So hopefully this might be helpful for you, Candace, too. Thing is, stay away from any situation that looks excessively wet or moist. Bad. I believe that. Bad. I would say you want to look for, like, we call this the potting media. I would say look for like bark, typically, versus moss, because you'll see moss oftentimes. I wouldn't buy one that's in moss, because it's typically gonna just have been too wet. So you want to look for like bark, as the potting media for the most part. And then these are the aerial roots, and these are normal. So so you will see the aerial roots. On yours, you want to look for the leaves being, like they say, like a medium, like a grassy green color. If there's any type of yellowing on the bottom leaves, that's normal, because they will do that and then fall off. That's so, like, again, this is all normal. And then if there is any mechanical damage to the leaves, this is a great example right here. You want to see that it's healed. So the part that is dead there, that's fine. But then you can see it's healed, just like how we get a cut and then it scabs. That's what you have there. So that's fine. All that means is that was, somehow before I bought this plant, like something happened to that leaf. I don't know what, but it's fine because it's healed. It's got like a scab, totally fine. And again, you can see a little bit of yellowing on that, but that's a bottom leaf. That's normal. That's just going to die and fall off and then be replaced with a new leaf. So you want to look at the. What do you mean, Fender? All you can hear is potty? What? Oh, potting medium. Potting media. Potting media. Yeah, that's what they call it. Potting media. Like MEDIA. Yeah. Potting media. So that orchid you're looking at there was my very first orchid, who's actually been growing a new leaf. So I'm curious, brown leaves, Candace, that is really interesting. Yours is in moss. Do you know how old, like how big or how old it is? You'll have to just send pictures. The moss is a problem because the moss retains moisture, and so it can cause root rot, stem rot. It also, once the orchid gets a little bit more mature, it can actually like suffocate the roots, because once they get a little bit more mature, they want bark, right? And in orchids part 2, I think is when we talk about, actually it might be in this one, we talk about where orchids live in the wild, and they actually live outside, like they live on the bark of trees, like they don't go in soil. They attach to the bark of trees. So they love the bark. And so there should also be like airflow. There's a lot. Yeah, put pictures up. So they're still, by the way, they're still at lunch. So I have that pulled up. So don't worry. This is just in the meantime. The leaves are like a medium grass green color, like I said, and that they aren't really limp or that they aren't really dark or anything like that. And then you want to look for these nice, beautiful crowns and stems that are green and don't have like black spots or, rot or anything like that. And any of the roots that you can see, for them to look light green or silvery or white is normal. That's all normal. All these colors are normal. There's a cute one there. That's all normal. You don't want black or brown or mushy. On the drier side is always better. Like these are firm and dry. That's good. Those are the arrow, look how cute. So yeah, and then, so it really, the first thing again is you want, it's this is the life of the plant, is this area. So you want to look, just to show you guys some more examples, look for nice, beautiful leaves, crowns, stems, all that good stuff. And then you have your flower spikes, and then you have your blooms and your buds. If you have buds, what you don't want is you don't want to see buds that are like shriveled or buds that have like fallen off, you know, or anything like that, right? You know, you want to see that they are all still attached to the plant, and if they're, you know, they will be in different stages, right? That's normal. So you've got buds and you've got blooms. That's totally normal. What you don't want is you don't want them to look shriveled and dead, or again have fallen off before fully opening. That means the plant's trying to conserve energy, which isn't necessarily the end of the world, but it could be indicative that there's a problem that is hard to diagnose until you get the plant home. So these are just really beautiful. These are really good examples of really healthy orchids that are in great shape and look really good. So, you know, I don't have any examples of what not to get because I wouldn't get them. But again, you want the nice green. You don't want any black or brown. You don't want any bugs, because sometimes sometimes you'll see bugs. And the other thing is mold, because sometimes you will see that, and it's the white. I have the court video pulled up. They're not back yet. The fan is still going on the fan. I've never seen fantastic beasts. Yes, they get sunburn and scabs. It is really crazy, and they heal like the way kind of like people do. And yeah, that's where I get mine, Candace, is Trader Joe's as well. But you have to know what to look for, and that's part of why I made this video, because when you know, Super Planner Girl and actually Wifey too, they had expressed interest in getting orchids. I was like, I learned the mistakes from like the first orchid I bought. I had no idea what I was looking for, and I got one with a terminal spike. And so then I did a lot of research, and actually every time I go to Trader Joe's, which is often because I love shopping there, I look at all the orchids and I just even if I'm not going to get one, I just look at all the things that are wrong with them so that I can identify, get used to just seeing it. And like, actually other people that are shopping there have been like, hey, can you help me pick out an orchid? So like, it's great because they have so many that you can see examples of really healthy ones versus like sick ones. And I've actually seen ones with mold. I've seen ones with bugs, and I've seen others that are perfectly healthy. So, that way you can get kind of experience of like looking at them. But yeah, so this video is sort of like what to look for when you're buying one. And the thing is like a lot of people do give them as gifts or get them as gifts, but they don't know what to look for, right? Understandably so. And I think they're back in court. Yep. Hold on, guys. Let's do this. Let's do this thing. Yeah, they're back. They're back. All right, hold on. Don't worry. They're just sitting down. I think they're waiting for the jury. So yeah. All right, here we go. All right. Yeah, there you go. Congrats on your new job too, by the way. But I love these orchids. Bring me so much joy. I love them, and I want them to live because they can live for 15 years.
Raise your right hand, please. You solemnly swear the evidence you give the court and jury the case in their hands, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you.
Why does he look familiar?
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Lally.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir.
All right.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name?
Gary Fowler, F as in Frank, A-L-L-E-R.
And sir, that microphone in front of you, you can You can move that
Okay.
any way you wish. So if you want to bring it up or down, just the wand itself. And what do you do for work, sir?
I'm a pathologist.
Yes.
And,
All right. I'm staying.
Where is it that you work?
I work at Good Samaritan Medical Center
And how long have you been working as a pathologist at Good Samaritan?
since November of 2015.
Now, if I could ask you just a few questions about sort of your educational background, starting with your undergrad, where did you go to school and what, if anything, did you receive a degree in?
My undergraduate education, I went to Tufts University.
All right, so doctor, I'm going to ask you to put the microphone perhaps underneath your mouth and speak into it, because in order to keep this room cool, we need to have these fans going. If they can't compete with you, we'll have to turn them off, and I think everybody would prefer to have them on. So please speak loudly.
How am I now? Okay. Okay. So Tufts University, undergraduate. I have a degree in biology. That was.
All right, let me just say this. Okay, so I have my options here, or we can either stay live and watch some of this testimony. He'll probably go the end of the day, although who knows. And if that's the case, then it's probably going to be tomorrow before we do the next recap, which would be the recap with Carrie Roberts. Or if y'all are like, you know what, we can watch him later. Like, I'd rather get to the Carrie Roberts testimony. I wanted to hear. We were excited to talk about that. Then we can end the stream. This is what we were waiting for. I'm just thinking out loud. We were waiting to see who the next witness is, and eventually I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna stay. But then again, I'm like, wait, hold on. You know, in my mind, I was thinking if it was like Trooper Proctor, right? But it's up to you guys. If y'all want to cover him now, we'll do that. And if you'd rather cover him later and you guys can watch a different stream and then would rather be able to get to that recap tonight, we can do that. It's totally up. I mean, definitely. Yeah. And he's a forensic pathologist, so he's also going to be more well-trained anyway. I don't know why you're apologizing, Lifey. So yeah. So, but do you guys want me to, do you want to continue watching him live, or would you rather, and do the recap with the next recap tomorrow, or would y'all rather do that recap tonight? Just because I have to finish working on the video and get it exported. So, so that's why, like, essentially it's just, we can do one or the other. He does seem sober. Correct. What do you guys think? We'll listen to another couple minutes and see.
So you received your degree in biology from Tufts. Where did you go from there?
I went to Tufts Medical School in Boston for 4 years there.
And after you graduated from medical school, where did you go from there?
I went to
right.
a residency. And
Yeah, so Candace says she has to go. I know Fender also said she's about to fall asleep. I think Blackwater's making burgers. So I think that it sounds like probably the best option is going to be continuing on with the initial plan. Again, if this was Trooper Proctor, it'd be, yeah. But we'll do the initial plan. At least you know what, we got a little bit of orchid talk in. Again, we can, that was fun. But this was a very eclectic day, right? With a lot of variety. You'll only be able to make it to the one. You mean the one tonight or in the morning for you? So, okay, cool. Well, that sounds like a good plan. Thanks, y'all, for your input. Let me do this. Okay, so this has been a crazy day. A lot of variety. That's been fun. We had the premiere, for anyone who missed it, we had the video premiere this morning of the music video for Get Low Canton Style, but that's a video, like it's a separate video, so you can watch that whenever you feel so inclined. Let me know what you think of the thumbnail, because I spent a lot of time on that this morning. That's why I was actually kind of late to court, although it ended up being fine since Brian Higgins was only on stand for a little bit, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of the thumbnail, if you like it, right, either now or the recap. Okay, yeah, so recap it is. So that's what we'll do. You guys are the best. Thank you for being here. We are all weird here, so you're in good company. Literally, we are all weirdos. So yeah, so it's all good. But I will get working on getting the rest of that ready for the recap. And great point, Fender. Yeah, put it in the Discord if anyone finds it. And I'll tell you what, if you could do me a favor, y'all, if you want to put it in the Discord under if it's a document or whatever, I guess you could put it under the documents thread. But yeah, that would be awesome. That's a really good idea. Thank you for that. I mean, you know, yeah, we're all weird. We're all weird in a good way, everybody, right? I think that you could probably even safely say that if people who like in other words, if we weren't weird, we wouldn't be like watching trials for fun, right? Yeah, like we watch trials for fun. I would say that probably everyone in that position, just right off the bat, you know, right, probably because of the weird. Yes, we like weird. And also, I think there's been studies, haven't there, on like smart people are weirder, generally speaking. So, okay, I will see y'all tonight then. I'll schedule that when I have a better idea of when it'll be, but it'll be in a couple hours, obviously. Let me go ahead and get the outro ready. Y'all are the best. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being a squirrel. And I will see y'all here in a handful of hours for the next recap. See y'all then.